Naruto. Kidnapping Rin Nohara to create the strongest Kirigakure. Chapter 1. Konoha Year 49, Land of Bears. In a secret prison that no instrument could detect, kill me. Screams of agony reached Kagaya-che's ears, and he found them nothing but noisy. Unfortunately, he was currently strapped to an operating table, bound hand and foot, unable even to cover his ears. It must be Orochimaru's turn to perform human experiments on me, right? If I die from this failure, I wonder if I'll transmigrate into a harem anime. Kagaya-che murmured to himself, a self-deprecating smile appearing at the corner of his lips. Kagaya-che, 12 years old, was a student. Or rather, he used to be a student. In his previous life, he was watching S-15 in his dorm, but not only did BLG surprisingly get eliminated, they even had the leisure to go and exchange feelings with their sisters, then collectively denied it all afterward. That's right, kids, I did it all. After fainting from anger, he woke up to find himself born into the Kagaya clan in the Hidden Mist village. This beginning could be described as an outcast of heaven. People say the Uchiha are warmongering fanatics, but compared to the Kagaya clan, they're just little girls. The Kagaya clan members are all green-skinned, either fighting or on their way to fight every day. Even the best pilot uncle from the Middle East would seem harmless in front of them. Kagaya-che's parents died in the Second Great Ninja War, but luckily, he had good talent, awakening the clan's Kekkei Genkai, Shikatsumyaku, at birth. He graduated early at 10 and immediately joined the Hidden Mist Village's Anbu, where he was highly regarded within the clan and didn't endure much hardship. However, shortly after joining the Anbu, Season 3 broke out, and his Anbu squad was dispatched to the continent to carry out a mission. The mission was to infiltrate the Leaf Village's eastern camp in the Land of Bears and destroy their supplies. As a result, Kagaya-che was captured alive by Leaf Ninja and brought to this underground prison built with Earth release. When he lay on the operating table, he guessed his fate, that scientist would never let go of an opportunity to study Shikatsumyaku. But Kagaya-che wasn't panicked, he had a way to escape. However, before escaping, he still wanted to extract some benefits from Orochimaru. Closing his eyes, he looked at a map in his consciousness space. The map interface was simple, with a pure black background dotted with a few white question marks, like the interface of those canned games from the Potato Factory. In the center of the map was a red dot, representing Kagaya-che himself. The Explorer system, this was the cheat he had recently awakened. Centered on him, within a 10-meter radius, some question marks would randomly appear on the map. People, ninja tools, plants. The question marks could appear on any target. As long as Kagaya-che found the target with a question mark and touched it with his hand, he would receive a treasure chest reward. Question marks were divided into 6 tiers: white, green, blue, purple, gold, and red. The deeper the color, the better the reward. Unfortunately, until today, Kagaya-che had only found white and green question marks, mostly appearing on rusty kunai, expired soldier pills, and clothes dropped by kunoichi, providing him with negligible rewards. He hadn't yet found a way to increase the drop rate and could only wait for the system to spawn high-level question marks. And now, he finally had his chance. On the map in his mind, about 4 or 5 meters in front of him, a purple question mark was slowly approaching. Click. The laboratory door was pushed open, and almost inaudible footsteps sounded. Kagaya-che felt the room temperature suddenly drop a few degrees. Hello, Che-kun. A low, hoarse voice drifted over, like fingernails scraping a blackboard, causing an inexplicable sense of discomfort. Kagaya-che glanced out of the corner of his eye and saw a pale, elongated face. If one only looked at the facial features, he was a handsome man, but that sinister, snake-like aura made him utterly unlikable. Orochimaru had arrived. A faint purple glow emanated from his chest, meaning that as long as Kagaya-che touched that spot, he would receive a high-quality purple reward. Kagaya-che lay still, like a desperate lamb awaiting slaughter. Orochimaru was long accustomed to such reactions. As he put on his rubber gloves, he slowly recounted the intelligence he had gathered. Kagaya-che, the genius of the Kagaya clan in the Hidden Mist village, or rather, the top genius, it wouldn't be an exaggeration. I've wanted to meet you for a long time. He finished putting on his gloves, looked at the white-haired boy on the operating table, and smiled faintly. It's a pity your third Mizukage is too strict with his subordinates. I've never encountered anyone from the Kagaya clan before. Fortunately, I managed to invite you here this time, so I can finally witness the renowned Shikatsumyaku. Slurp. Orochimaru's long tongue licked his lips, while he silently observed Kagaya-che's heart rate on the instrument. He didn't make this opening speech to pass the time but to observe the test subject's reaction. If Kagaya-che showed intense fear, he would be gentler during the experiment, otherwise, he could be more aggressive and brutal. Live subjects with Kekkei Genkai were hard to come by, and Orochimaru didn't want the subject to die of fright prematurely. The result pleased him greatly. Kagaya-che's calmness exceeded his imagination, making him his favorite kind of test subject. He took a deep breath, suppressing his slightly excited emotions, drew a tube of blood from Kagaya-che, and collected some hair, fingernails, and other samples, immediately placing them in test tubes for research. Kagaya-che remained silent throughout, merely staring at the ceiling, seemingly having completely given up struggling. Orochimaru sat in front of the complex instruments nearby, his eyes shining brightly, his arms occasionally trembling slightly from excitement. This was the first Shikatsumyaku test subject he had acquired, and a genius at that. Its quality was self-evident. He didn't even want his assistants to share this exquisite delicacy, intending to savor it alone. It's a good thing Orochimaru just looks effeminate. I was really worried he'd tell me to spread my own legs. Kagaya-che saw Orochimaru's expression gradually turn twisted and secretly grumbled to himself. A few hours later, Orochimaru let out a long breath, reluctantly stepping away from the experimental instruments. Che-kun, I truly wish to dissect you right now, but unfortunately, there are too many matters on the front lines, so we'll stop here for now. Orochimaru's face showed a hint of regret, like a gourmet unable to finish a grand meal in one sitting. Later tonight, I plan to remove a few of your ribs, wrist bones, and leg bones to see if they can regrow as the legends say. To avoid any errors in the experimental data, I will not administer anesthesia. I hope Che-kun can understand. Orochimaru was polite, even expressing his apologies gently, but there was no pity in his snake-like eyes. To him, a living person on the operating table was no different from a rat or a piece of wood. However, keeping the test subject relaxed was more conducive to research. He took off his rubber gloves and was about to leave when Kagaya-che suddenly spoke. I heard the third Hokage is planning to elect a successor. Lord Orochimaru, as the commander of the Leaf Village's Eastern Front, spending so much time on experiments, you must not be interested in competing for Hokage, then. Or perhaps, you have no hope of becoming the fourth Hokage. Garen used last whisper, silenced and then broken. Your Hidden Mist Village's intelligence seems to be even better informed than I imagined. Orochimaru narrowed his eyes, a dangerous light gleaming in his snake pupils. He didn't know how Kagaya-che knew the internal details of the village's fourth Hokage selection, but those words indeed touched a raw nerve. From the Second Great Ninja War until now, Orochimaru could be said to have dedicated himself to the village, performing countless dirty deeds he couldn't even count, and turning the tide of war several times. He hoped to gain the old man's recognition, but the old man seemed to only want him to remain in the shadows forever. Just like the Hokage's dear friend. Orochimaru had no interest in becoming Hokage, but his teacher's distrust deepened the chill in his heart. He couldn't help but turn around, walk to Kagaya-che's bed, and say with a sinister smile. Che-kun, tonight, besides removing your bones, I also plan to cut off your tongue to see if it can regrow. As soon as his voice fell, Kagaya-che struggled with his hands, and the restraints binding him suddenly broke. Two snow-white bone spikes simultaneously shot out from his left and right palms, attacking Orochimaru's chest. There was no panic in Orochimaru's eyes. He allowed the bone spikes to pierce his body, then opened his mouth, and another Orochimaru crawled out from within. Orochimaru-style body replacement jutsu. The original body fell limp like a shed snakeskin, covered only in yellowish-green mucus. So smooth. Kagaya-che shook off the mucus from his hands, pushed off with his legs, and jumped off the bed, retreating. At the same time, a purple treasure chest appeared in his mind. You touched Orochimaru's chest and received a reward, Orochimaru's chakra amount. Got it. Just as Keigayache accepted the reward, Orochimaru's attack arrived. Hidden shadow snake hands. Several large brown pythons emerged from his right sleeve, instantly flying in front of Keigayache and tightly coiling around his body. Che-kun, I was careless. You are far more perfect than I imagined. He realized that Keigayache's sudden words earlier were meant to lure him closer, and then fight to the death. Everyone said the Keigaya clan were brainless brutes, but he didn't expect such a cunning brat among them. There was no anger on Orochimaru's face, but rather an expression of delight at finding a worthy prey. Intelligent test subjects are much more interesting to study. Tisk, facing a Sanin, it seems there's really nothing I can do. Keigayache, bound by the snakes, shook his head and sighed softly, completely giving up resistance. Boom. Orochimaru was about to inject Keigayache with anesthetic when a loud bang suddenly came from outside, making him pause. He suddenly realized something and stared intently at Keigayache. You have other tricks up your sleeve. Unfortunately, Keigayache did not answer him this time. His body twisted and deformed at a visible speed, turning into stark white bones that shattered into pieces. Bone clone. Orochimaru finally couldn't help but widen his eyes. He hadn't noticed that the person in front of him was a clone, nor had he ever heard of the Keigaya clan possessing such an ability. A surge of anger at being tricked welled up in his heart, but it was quickly washed away by joy. I must have you. A smile flitted across Orochimaru's face as he instantly vanished. In a corner of the East Line camp, the Konoha supply warehouse was emitting large plumes of black smoke. A squad of Kirigakure Anbu had infiltrated, blown up the warehouse, and quickly retreated. Mission accomplished. Keigayache, wearing a Kirigakure Anbu mask, felt the message from his clone and a smirk played on his lips. It was all a trap he had set. When he approached the Konoha East Line camp with his squad, he noticed an unfamiliar purple question mark appearing on the map, located inside the camp. So he discussed with his squad, suggesting he pretend to be captured to infiltrate the camp and attract attention, while the squad would then find an opportunity to sneak in. This way, they could complete the mission and seize the chance to get the reward. Of course, his main body had always been with the squad, the one captured was merely a bone clone. The bone clone had briefly displayed its Shikatsumyaku abilities during the fight and was sent to the lab immediately after capture. He had previously guessed that high-level question marks would only appear on important targets, but he hadn't expected it to appear on Orochimaru. While lying on the operating table, he secretly used the white bone that grew from his wrist to loosen the restraints, ready to act at any moment. Unexpectedly, Orochimaru was extremely cautious and didn't come near him during the experiment. Seeing Orochimaru about to leave, he decisively used a taunt to draw Orochimaru closer, then touched him to receive the reward. The bone clone was a ninjutsu he developed himself. Unlike other clones purely formed from chakra, this clone was filled with bones, making it very similar to a real human body. Unless one possessed a Sharingan or Byakugan, even Orochimaru would have a hard time discerning it. Meanwhile, the other squad successfully infiltrated the camp and destroyed the supplies. Poor Orochimaru, unaware that the gifts of fate had long been marked with a price in the dark. The Konoha camp was in chaos. Keigayache's squad had already run several hundred meters, the coastline clearly visible. Once they were on the ship, Konoha wouldn't be able to catch them. The Anbu captain, running ahead, spoke with a voice half surprised, half jealous. I didn't expect your bone clone to be so useful. Why didn't you tell me about this new ninjutsu before? As the squad leader, he had only learned about the bone clone ability after hearing Keigayache's infiltration plan. It greatly displeased him that a subordinate had a secret jutsu hidden from him. Keigayache retorted, Captain, isn't it normal for a ninja to have a few small secrets? The Anbu captain snorted coldly. I don't allow secrets within the squad. From now on, you must tell me about anything you develop. Also, when we return to the village, you'll give me the scroll about the bone clone. I'll submit it to the village to see if a version suitable for ordinary ninja can be developed. This was tantamount to stripping Keigayache of his intellectual property rights. According to Kirigakure's custom, he would at most receive a few thousand ryo as compensation. The other two teammates in the squad remained silent, clearly tacitly agreeing with his decision. In Kirigakure, Kagaya ninja had a terrible reputation, disliked by everyone. Seeing Kagaya suffer a loss, everyone felt a bit of schadenfreude. Alright, Captain. Kagaya obediently responded, raising both hands at the same time. 10-finger drilling bullets. A series of popping sounds echoed as his finger bones transformed into powerful bullets, striking the backs of his 3 teammates at extreme speed. The 3 were greatly alarmed and immediately dodged, but several bone bullets still hit their backs. Fortunately, they were not seriously injured. Just as they were about to counterattack, their legs suddenly gave out, and they fell heavily. What are you doing? The Anbu captain lay limp on the ground, his crimson eyes fixed on Kagaya. They all knew that people from the Kagaya clan were lunatics, acting violently and unpredictably, but they never expected this brat to dare attack his Anbu comrades. And what was with the sudden weakness throughout their bodies? It's jellyfish venom. I added jellyfish venom. Kagaya-che's muffled voice came from behind the mask, showing no emotional fluctuation. He had prepared a small bottle of jellyfish paralyzing toxin beforehand, applying it to his 10 fingers. The toxin, attached to the bone bullets, was shot out. As long as one hit a teammate, it would render them unable to move. Seeing the captain about to speak again, Kagaya interrupted. I know you're looking for an opportunity to get rid of me. Since that's the case, why don't I send you to the Pure Land first? His 3 teammates, mouths gaped open, unable to make a sound. Finding an opportunity to kill Kagaya was indeed their top secret mission, but how did this brat know? At that moment, Kagaya raised his hands again, and a volley of dense bone bullets riddled the 3, destroying their brains to ensure no information could be collected by Konoha. After all this, he then attached explosive tags inside their clothes. It was a pity that no question marks appeared on his 3 teammates, otherwise, he could have gotten something extra. He's over there. Just then, the Konoha ninja also saw his retreating figure and sped up their pursuit. Leaving you a little gift. Kagaya chuckled softly, quickly running away. Flames erupted from the bodies of his 3 teammates, followed by screams and explosions behind him. After a while, the smoke cleared, leaving more than a dozen Konoha ninja dead or injured, and the others with expressions of terror in their eyes. That brat, to escape, actually killed his own teammates and used their bodies as explosive tag traps. Such a person, even a devil would want to tattoo him on themselves. Don't chase him. Orochimaru arrived, saw the small boat sailing in the distance, and decisively gave the order. The sea was Kirigakure's home turf. He wasn't sure if the enemy had any more ambushes, so he couldn't act rashly. Looking at the charred bodies of the Kirigakure Anbu and Konoha ninja, a strong desire arose in Orochimaru's heart. Che-kun, we will meet again. Ka. Ka. Several seagulls flew over the white sails. Kagaya gripped the rudder and looked back. Seeing no pursuers, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. The Land of Water might not excel in other areas, but its shipbuilding technology was unparalleled in the ninja world. Easy to control and extremely fast, it would be difficult for Konoha to catch up. This mission had been fraught with danger. He not only had to face the formidable Orochimaru but also guard against betrayal from his teammates. Fortunately, he emerged unscathed in the end, and with considerable gains. Catching his breath, he brought up the system panel. Explorer. Kagaya. Chakra amount. 9. Chakra nature. Water. Bloodline. Kagaya Shikatsumyaku. Kekkei Genkei abilities. Bone clone, 10-finger drilling bullets. Talents. Malice perception, 100-fold comprehension, see-through deception. Ninjutsu. 3 basic jutsu D. Water release. Hiding in mist technique D. Water release. Water wall B. Taijutsu. Kagaya fighting style. Scanning the data, his heart settled a little. His current panel strength wasn't too bad. The 3 talents awakened automatically when he first got the system, and they were all very practical. Malice perception allowed him to sense others' good or ill will towards him, much like the 9 tails. 100-fold comprehension could greatly enhance his learning and thinking speed, making it easier to develop new abilities. The bone clone came about this way. As for see-through deception, it was even more powerful, meaning he, like Kagaya Otsutsuki, was immune to all genjutsu, even those from the Mangekyo Sharingan. Additionally, after acquiring Orochimaru's chakra, his chakra amount reached 9. According to the system standard, a cage-level chakra amount is roughly 10, and anything beyond that is not within the realm of normal humans. Orochimaru's chakra was above that of an elite ninja, but still a little short of a true cage level. After all, going dark makes one 10 times stronger, and the current Orochimaru was only gradually going mad, not yet a rogue ninja at his peak strength. However, this amount of chakra was temporarily enough for him to develop that powerful ninjutsu. His purpose in risking approaching Orochimaru on this mission was to get a high-level reward, paving the way for that ninjutsu. Because, if things went as expected, the Anbu would soon receive the mission to kidnap Rin Nohara, and then be wiped out by the enraged Obito. His cheat came a bit late. Currently, he was at most special Jonin level, with no chance of winning against the nascent Obito. Even if he could miraculously escape from Obito, in a few years, Obito would personally come to Kirigakure, control the Mizukage, and act wantonly, and he would still face immense danger. Kirigakure also considered making a decision 2.0, and bringing his talents to places like Konoha, but the intensity of infighting in Konoha is well known. Even the Senju and Uchiha clans were wiped out. As an outsider with a Kekkei Genkai, his fate would likely be to be sliced up by Danzo and Orochimaru. The situation in other villages was similar. Since he couldn't escape, Kirigakure had a bold plan. For example, saving Rin Nohara's life and then taking control of her. After much thought, only by kidnapping Rin Nohara would he have a card to play against Obito Uchiha. It sounded difficult, and in reality, it wasn't simple. Rin Nohara's death was a grand spectacle personally orchestrated by Madara Uchiha, with White Zetsu giving a stellar performance. It was obvious that the entire operation would be closely watched by them, making it almost impossible to rescue Rin Nohara. Unless he could master that ninjutsu during this time. I have intelligence in advance, and a cheat. In any case, the advantage is mine. Kirigakure said, then quickly patted his mouth. The last person who said, the advantage is mine, has already gone to play Boom Beach. Upon returning to the Hidden Mist village, Kirigakure was immediately invited by the interrogation division for a chat, and was only released after 3 days. For those 3 days, the interrogation division made him repeatedly explain the mission situation, detailing why he was the only one who escaped back. Kirigakure answer was simple. He insisted he tried his best to save his teammates, but unfortunately, the Konoha ninja were too strong, and they tragically sacrificed themselves. In any case, the Hidden Mist village lacked the means of the Yamanaka clan to probe mines, and his teammates' bodies were all destroyed, so no one would know the truth. 3 days later, under the resentful gaze of the interrogation division ninja, Kirigakure slowly walked toward his home. He did not live in the Kirigakure clan territory but resided alone in the seaside courtyard left by his parents, living the same life his parents once did. His parents had warned him to minimize contact with clan members, or else his muscles would control his brain. Walking alone on the street, Kirigakure inhaled the cold, damp air of the land of water, not relaxing much despite returning home. The entire village was desolate. Only occasionally would a few skinny pedestrians hurry past, quickly lowering their heads upon seeing Kirigakure before vanishing into the streets and alleys. A faint, bloody stench permeated the perpetual mist, perhaps originating from dead stray dogs and rats. Or perhaps from humans. How can the village be governed well when surrounded by these insects? Kirigakure looked at the current state of the village and sighed inwardly. The foundation of the Hidden Mist village was actually not weak. It was the village with the most bloodline limit families besides Konoha. Furthermore, isolated overseas and easy to defend yet hard to attack, it should have been able to emulate Great Britain, establish colonies, and act as a continental troublemaker. Wouldn't that be magnificent? Unfortunately, Hidden Mist didn't have Konoha's luck but suffered from Konoha's disease, incompetent externally, expert internally. After the third Mizukage took power, he enforced isolation and the Blood Mist policy, barely participating in the Third Great Ninja War, yet they gained no advantage but attracted trouble instead. The Mizukage Lord also imitated Emperor Daojun, preferring to keep his subordinates guessing his intentions, causing even greater anxiety among the village populace. Recalling decades ago, when the first Mizukage stepped onto this island, the land of water was unified. Wherever the great army went, the people sincerely welcomed them. It truly maximized the opportune moment. That scene of vibrant vitality and flourishing competition still felt immediate. Yet, just a few decades later, has it declined to such an extent? As Keigaya Tetsu pondered this, he arrived at his doorstep, and his skin suddenly felt a stinging sensation. Unbeknownst to him, a faint white mist permeated the surroundings, and even a slight touch on the skin caused pain. With a poochie sound, Keigaya Tetsu drew the bone from his left arm, forming a bone blade. The next second, the attack arrived. A clear water column pierced the white mist and shot toward Keigaya Tetsu. He swung his bone blade to block, and with a paw sound, the hard bone blade was split in half by the water column. Fortunately, as long as he had enough chakra, he could grow endless bones. In the blink of an eye, Keigaya Tetsu drew another bone blade. A slender figure dashed out from the side. A cold light flashed, and a short knife chopped down toward his head. Keigaya Tetsu advanced instead of retreating, deploying the Keigaya clan's fighting technique, swinging the bone blade in his hand into a blur. With a series of dang 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 sounds, the two had exchanged over 10 blows in just a few seconds. At this moment, the opponent backed away, and a sweet voice came through. How did your chakra increase so much? A beautiful figure stepped out of the mist, wearing a blue short skirt, with long brown hair, and emerald green eyes like a clear autumn deep pool, captivating the soul. Although she was only 15, the existence that would not be much inferior to Tsunade in the future was already taking shape. It was Mei Terumi. Seeing the girl who was half a head taller than himself, Keigaya Tetsu's heart finally relaxed. Back then, the two were Ninja Academy classmates. Mei Terumi initially thought he was just another Keigaya lunatic, but later discovered he was different from the other Keigaya clan members. Plus, Mei Terumi was an experienced face con, attracted to good looks, and they quickly became good friends. Mei Terumi was exceptionally talented. She awakened two bloodline limits, boil release and lava release, very early. Unwilling to participate in the blood mist exam and kill her classmates, she applied for early graduation and joined the Anbu. She is now the captain of an Anbu squad. He put away his bone blade, spread his hands, and explained. I'm growing up, so isn't it normal for my chakra to increase? Mei Terumi frowned and said. The problem is, I just sensed that your chakra increase is very abnormal, it seems even greater than mine. As she spoke, she extended her fair hand, intending to pat Keigaya Tetsu's head, leveraging her height advantage, just as she used to do at the Ninja Academy. Keigaya Tetsu quickly took 2 steps back, successfully dodging the woman's attack. What a joke. He was patted on the head playing mobile games before transmigrating, and he's still getting patted on the head after transmigrating. Wouldn't that make the transmigration pointless? Failing to pat his head, Mei Terumi revealed a mischievous smile. Never mind. You're a Keigaya genius, so it's normal for your development to be unusual. It's just your height. Keigaya Tetsu clenched his fists, trembling with anger and breaking out in a cold sweat despite the warm weather. Isn't she just relying on being 3 years older and developing faster? In the future, he must make Mei Terumi beg for mercy. Speaking of which, your welcome method is too unique. It's one thing not inviting me to the grilled fish restaurant, but you actually ambushed me with boil release acid mist. Be so rough, and be careful you won't find a marriage partner later. Hearing Keigaya Tetsu's complaint, a hash mark appeared on Mei Terumi's forehead. How could I, Mei Terumi, not find someone to marry? She crossed her arms, looking agitated. You went on a mission without telling me. I was just punishing you slightly with acid mist, that's already generous enough. Seeing the mix of anger and worry in the girl's eyes, Keigaya Tetsu felt a warmth in his heart. In this village, perhaps only this childhood friend truly cared about him. He scratched his head and chuckled. Don't worry, I'll take care of myself. A smile blossomed on the white-haired youth's perfect features, and the anger in Mei Terumi's heart immediately dissipated. She sighed softly, Tetsu, I heard you took care of those guys, but you need to know that there aren't just 1 or 2 people in the village who want to eliminate your Keigaya clan. As a genius within the clan, you are a prime target. Keigaya Tetsu knew that the intelligence about his teammates trying to kill him was secretly provided by Mei Terumi. He gently patted Mei Terumi's shoulder and smiled. Don't worry, I'm not that easy to kill. Maid Terumi slightly trembled when he suddenly touched her and glared at him. Why are you touching me out of nowhere? Although she said that, the girl showed no intention of pulling away. The two played around for a bit longer. Maid Terumi gave him some high-quality soldier pills and kunai, and Keigaya Tetsu returned home. You touched Maid Terumi's shoulder, gaining a reward, Maid Terumi's fire release chakra. Just now, he saw a green question mark pop up above Maid Terumi's shoulder and immediately decided to touch it. Not bad. He didn't expect to gain a new chakra nature. The basic requirement to become a Jonin is awakening two chakra natures. Now, he is at least qualified to challenge the position of Jonin. Of course, the prerequisite is that he survives the hands of White Zetsu and Obito. After resting for a moment, Keigaya Tetsu immediately took a boat to a nearby uninhabited island, where he could develop new ninjutsu without being discovered. A month later, Keigaya Tetsu finally received a new Anbu mission. This mission was rated S rank, and an entire Anbu division would be mobilized. The Hidden Mist Village Anbu organization imitated Konoha's. One division includes 4 squads, with 4 people per squad, plus the division captain, totaling 17 people. Such a large-scale mobilization was quite rare in the history of the Hidden Mist Village. Because this time, they were going to use a tailed beast to destroy Konoha. Upon receiving the mission, Keigaya Tetsu actually felt relieved. He was finally going to face the greatest threat. The Land of Frost. PFFT, PFFT, PFFT. The blade stabbed into the corpse of the cloud-hidden ninja, again and again. The originally tiny knife wounds turned into bloody holes, a gruesome sight. But the owner of the blade seemed not to notice the scene, repeating the action mechanically, like a machine. Until a gentle voice arrived. Kakashi, that's enough. Minato Namikaze slowly walked toward the white-haired youth. Understood, Captain Minato. Kakashi let go of the gruesome cloud-hidden corpse, sheathed his sword, his eyes devoid of sorrow or joy. Rin Nohara ran over, her heart aching as she looked at his scarred arms, and quickly began treatment using medical ninjutsu. Kakashi, please stop fighting like this, okay? Rin Nohara pursed her lips and gently tried to persuade her close friend. During the fight against the cloud-hidden squad just now, Kakashi was the first to charge, abandoning defense and slashing wildly. Although the enemy was no match for him, Kakashi also sustained many injuries. Similar incidents had occurred several times recently. Okay, Rin. Kakashi agreed readily, though it was unclear if he truly took the advice to heart. Seeing his disciple in this state, Minato Namikaze sighed softly in his heart. Not long ago, during the Kanabi Bridge battle, Minato Namikaze's squad destroyed Iwagakure's supply lines, perfectly completing their mission. This forced the Iwagakure army to retreat, and the offensive from the hidden sand village instantly slowed down, allowing Konoha to gradually gain the upper hand in the Great War. After the war, Minato and Kakashi were both hailed as Konoha heroes. Kakashi, especially, having acquired a Sharingan, was envied by countless people. Only Minato and Rin knew how much pain the young man was in. With his father committing suicide and his best friend dying tragically right before his eyes, for Kakashi, being alive was a form of torture. The Yellow Flash, who struck fear into the entire ninja world, now didn't know what to do. Thank goodness for Rin. Minato Namikaze sighed inwardly. If this gentle and lively girl hadn't been on the team, Kakashi's condition would likely have been much worse. A moment later, Rin Nohara finished the treatment and the cloud-hidden squad's corpses were destroyed. Minato Namikaze patted Kakashi's shoulder and said seriously. Kakashi, I'm leaving the squad in your hands now. Be extremely careful. He was leaving alone. The Land of Frost is located in the northern part of the continent and defected to the hidden cloud village after the war began. Their squad's mission this time was to infiltrate the Land of Frost, find opportunities to harass the ninja of the hidden cloud village and the Frost hidden village, and eliminate enemies randomly, like the cloud hidden squad they just encountered. For Minato's squad, this kind of mission was overkill, but he understood the third Hokage's thoughtful intentions. Their squad had suffered greatly at Kanabi Bridge and needed an easy, simple mission to recover. Unexpectedly, just an hour ago, Minato Namikaze received an urgent report via a ninja hawk. An elite Konoha Anbu squad was surrounded by a large number of enemies in the south of the Land of Lightning and required immediate rescue. Sarutobi Shinosuke, the son of the third Hokage, was the captain of that squad. Minato Namikaze was very puzzled. He knew Sarutobi Shinosuke had infiltrated the Land of Lightning to carry out a mission, but that mission was highly classified, and Shinosuke was a top expert. How could he have exposed his whereabouts and been surrounded by Kumogakure? Based on his understanding of Kumogakure, those dark-skinned men weren't skilled at intelligence gathering. But this was no time to ponder the reasons. Minato Namikaze made a swift decision. Since he was the fastest, he would rush over to save them first, and Kakashi would follow with the two teammates, ready to provide backup. Minato was very worried about his subordinates, but the situation was urgent, and he had no other choice. Kakashi nodded to Minato. Captain Minato, leave it to me. I will protect Rin. Hearing this, Rin Nohara felt a pang in her heart. This was Obito's dying wish, but the silly goggle-wearing boy was gone. Without another word, Minato transformed into a flash of gold light and used the body flicker technique to leave. Kakashi, don't worry about me. I'll protect you too. Rin Nohara clenched her small fists, her delicate and lovely face filled with determination. Kakashi looked at her, his mood easing slightly, and managed a faint smile, saying, I'm counting on you. The three left, completely unaware that not far behind them, a pale-skinned person was slowly rising from the ground. Hee, the good show is about to begin. Nighttime, dense forest in the land of frost. Ito Makoto, the Kirigakure Anbu squad captain, stood before his 16 subordinates. The target is ahead. Remember, we only need to capture that girl alive, nothing else matters. His voice was low and steady, betraying no emotion. The hidden mist Anbu members all nodded in unison. Yes. Kagaya Tetsu was also among them. The Sharingan is really useful. I should get a pair if I have the chance. Kagaya Tetsu muttered inwardly, his eyes hidden behind his mask coldly watching the squad captain in front of him. That wasn't the real Ito Makoto, it was a white Zetsu. The mission the Mizukage gave them was to take the vessel sealing the three tails and strike directly at Konoha, detonating the tailed beast within Konoha village, regardless of their own lives. As expected of an island nation, they love playing the self-destruction card. The mission itself was roughly what Kagaya Tetsu had anticipated, with one exception. The Mizukage never actually ordered them to kidnap a Jinchuriki to attack Konoha. Therefore, when Ito Makoto ordered them to seize the opportunity to kidnap the Jinchuriki, Kagaya Tetsu began to suspect him. He remembered that in the original work, the Kirigakure Anbu who kidnapped Rin Nohara seemed to be controlled by Uchiha Madara. So he utilized the Kagaya clan's reputation for recklessness, immediately questioning Ito Makoto for disobeying the Mizukage's orders. Then, Ito Makoto asked him to come to the office for a private conversation, where he revealed 2-3 Tomo Sharingan to him. Obey my every command. Ito Makoto, impersonated by the white Zetsu, said this to him. Kagaya Tetsu immediately understood. In his later years, Madara had given the Rinnegan to Nagato, but he kept a spare pair of 3 Tomo as backup, likely temporarily implanted into the white Zetsu's eyes for this operation. If he guessed correctly, the white Zetsu had secretly assassinated the real Ito Makoto long ago, then used the Mayflight technique to transform into his appearance and secretly alter the Mizukage's orders. After seeing the Sharingan, Kagaya Tetsu immediately pretended to be hypnotized and followed the white Zetsu's instructions. He secretly thought it was a good thing it wasn't a hypnosis manga, so he didn't have to make embarrassing noises. Seeing Kagaya Tetsu seemingly controlled by Genjutsu, the white Zetsu had no doubts. After all, the Kagaya clan members were all reckless brutes, and their resistance to Genjutsu was practically zero. He never would have guessed that Kagaya Tetsu possessed the see-through delusion talent, making all Genjutsu ineffective against him. Afterward, the white Zetsu used the same method to hypnotize all the other ninja in the squad, ensuring their absolute obedience before departing for the land of frost. Kagaya Tetsu didn't know how the white Zetsu could precisely locate Rin Nohara, but for the ninja world's strongest intelligence network, it probably wasn't difficult. Over the past few days, Kagaya Tetsu used his malice perception talent to secretly observe and discovered there were 5 other white Zetsu in the squad. The other Anbu had all been hypnotized and lost their autonomy, showing no emotion. Only the malice of the white Zetsu shone like a bonfire in the dark night to Kagaya Tetsu's perception. At this moment, they had sneaked up around Kakashi's squad. Minato Namikaze had already been diverted. Ito Makoto made a gesture, and the dozen or so Anbu, like a pack of wolves, slowly closed in from all directions. Mist. Kakashi saw a large patch of dense fog suddenly rise around them and whispered to Rin Nohara. Rin, get behind us. He drew his short sword and stood with his other teammate in front of Rin Nohara. The surrounding trees were covered by mist, turning into blurry, menacing black shadows. Kakashi pulled his mask down an inch, revealing his scarlet left eye, and whispered a warning. It might be Kirigakure ninja. Such an unusually dense fog could only be the work of the hidden mist village. Watanabe Shin, a new addition to the squad, had sweat beading on his forehead as he looked around in confusion. How are there hidden mist people in the land of frost? And how did they just happen to find us? Kakashi couldn't answer his questions. The Third Great Ninja War had been going on for a while, but the Hidden Mist Village's presence was still low, with their activities mainly concentrated around the Land of Water and the Land of Bears in the southeast of the continent. This was the first time they had ventured north into the Land of Frost. Kakashi, Shin, focus on the fight. I'll protect myself. Rin Nohara gripped her kunai tightly, quietly reassuring her two teammates. While medical ninja could increase a squad's survival rate, their combat prowess was often weak, making them a liability in battle. Many squads didn't wish for a medical ninja to join them. Because of this, Rin Nohara felt very guilty. Her combat power was insufficient, and her medical skills weren't good enough to save Obito. She didn't want to continue being a burden. Rin, just hide well. Kakashi motioned for the girl not to be nervous, telling her to stand by a large tree. At this moment, several silver glints flickered in the mist. With his white hair fluttering, Kakashi casually swung his short blade twice, and with several clangs, the incoming shuriken were all knocked down. This level of sneak attack was like child's play for a Sharingan ninja. But the opponent was clearly just testing them. His tomo spun, and Kakashi saw 7 or 8 shadows rapidly approaching through the mist, their attacks following suit. The sound of rushing water suddenly echoed through the forest as water release ninjutsu crashed down. Kakashi also completed his hand seals. Earth release. Earth-style wall. A thick earth wall quickly rose, and the water current struck it fiercely, sending large splashes flying and making the leaves rustle in the wind. Kakashi frowned slightly. He saw the enemy's masks, they were Kirigakure Anbu. The overall strength of the Hidden Mist Village was weak, but their Anbu's skill was first-rate, especially adept at these kinds of sneak attack and assassination operations. Buzz. He suddenly heard the sound of a sharp blade cutting through the air behind him and quickly dodged sideways, just in time to see a strange blade slash past his face. Why isn't there a dog head carved on the earth-style wall? Kagaya Tetsu asked softly. Kakashi's mind was instantly filled with questions, but now was not the time for him to be stunned, because the opponent's downward slash failed and turned into an upward strike, the blade attacking his face from below. Kakashi swung his blade to block, his forearm shaking, and his eyes widened slightly. Shikatsumyuku. An exclamation flashed through his mind like electricity. He saw that what his blade had blocked was a stark white bone. Crack. The short blade, inherited from Tsukumo and forged from chakra metal, easily cut through the bone. Tisk. I still need more calcium. Kagaya Tetsu sighed, then reached behind his neck and directly pulled out a spine bone, fiercely thrusting it towards Kakashi. Kakashi knew that the Kagaya clan of the Hidden Mist Village could manipulate bones and even extract them as weapons, but he had never seen it with his own eyes. Watching the opponent pull out a spine bone now, he realized how bizarre and terrifying this ability was. The two began a fierce close-quarters battle, the clashing sounds of white bone and sharp blade continuously ringing out, and Kakashi's expression behind his mask grew increasingly grim. As Konoha's youngest Jonin, he had never paid attention to people his age, but this guy, who looked to be about his age, was putting a lot of pressure on him. The opponent had no blade technique and average taijutsu, but their strength was greater than many Jonin. After just 2 minutes of fighting, Kakashi's forearm, holding the blade, was already tingling slightly. Strength is the most direct manifestation of chakra quantity, which meant the guy he was fighting possessed an astonishing amount of chakra. Not only that, although the opponent's blade technique was far inferior to his own, the bone spikes that could grow from anywhere also made Kakashi feel quite troublesome. Getting too close risked being impaled by bones, but staying too far prevented him from protecting Rin Nohara, putting him in an awkward position. Kakashi, who isn't addicted to royal uncles' books, is indeed difficult to deal with. Kagaya Tetsu, facing him, also marveled inwardly. As expected of the future 6th Hokage, even if he only inherited 1/10 of Tsukumo's blade technique, he was still extremely difficult to handle. Kagaya Tetsu's face showed a somewhat crazed smile. He wasn't afraid, instead, he felt very excited. As a member of the Kagaya clan, he inevitably inherited the berserker gene. Fighting an opponent like Kakashi was incredibly exhilarating. At this moment, Kagaya Tetsu suddenly spread his right hand and thrust it forward, allowing Kakashi's blade to pierce his palm, then quickly pulled away. Kakashi was stunned. Was this guy crazy, suddenly abandoning his defense to let his palm be pierced? You touched Kakashi's blade, gaining reward, White Fang Blade Technique Beginner. It dropped. Kagaya Tetsu was overjoyed. Earlier, he saw a blue question mark appear on Kakashi and a blue aura emanating from his blade, so he boldly touched it, not expecting it to be the White Fang Blade Technique. Although it was only at the beginner level, it could still significantly boost his combat power. As for his pierced palm, for the Kagaya clan, it would recover in a breath. Otherwise, they would have long since been stabbed to death by their own bones. Kagaya Tetsu's smile grew brighter, but Kakashi's mood was not as good as his. The situation was very unfavorable now. In a one-on-one fight, he was confident that with a little time, taking down the enemy opposite him wouldn't be a problem. The problem was that he wasn't facing just one enemy. From time to time, a few shuriken or some water-release ninjutsu would fly out of the dense fog, keeping his nerves taut and him struggling to cope. Unfortunately, the Sharingan was not the Byakugan, it couldn't see enemies hidden in the thick fog, so he could only passively endure. While he was busy dealing with Kagaya Tetsu, he didn't notice a Kirigakure ninja silently emerging from a tree trunk not far behind him. Rin Nohara was leaning against this tree trunk, which was supposed to be a safe spot, but unexpectedly, there was someone inside the trunk. You. Before Rin Nohara could react, a hand chop struck her neck, and her vision went black as she fainted. At the same time, more than 10 Kirigakure Anbu ninja rushed forward, surrounding Kakashi and Watanabe Shin. Kakashi, we must find an opportunity to retreat. Watanabe Shin said helplessly. In this situation, unless Minato Namikaze was also here, there was no chance of winning. Kakashi nodded, okay. With that, he fought and retreated, intending to rendezvous with Rin Nohara to escape, but suddenly froze. Rin Nohara was gone. He felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar, his whole body pierced by 10,000 needles, his mouth agape, unable to speak. He and Watanabe Shin had clearly held the enemies firmly at bay, so no one should have been able to bypass them and snatch Rin Nohara. Kakashi, they've retreated. Watanabe Shin exclaimed, and only then did Kakashi realize that all the hidden mist ninja had disappeared, leaving only rustling leaves. Their goal was to capture Rin. Kakashi's lips trembled as he muttered to himself. His mind was in a mess, completely unable to understand what the hidden mist village intended to do. A tsunami of guilt washed over him. He had promised Obito he would protect Rin, yet Rin had disappeared right under his nose, her fate unknown. He was a failure. Watanabe Shin wiped the water from his face, his brows furrowed. Kakashi, something is very wrong with this. What do we do next? Kakashi suddenly looked up, the eye gifted by his best friend turning several shades redder. Pursue. On the other side, Ito Makoto led the team in a frantic sprint through the forest, his face behind the mask devoid of expression. As a white Zetsu, it didn't yet understand the meaning of smiles, but its inner joy remained unaffected. The operation was smooth. It manipulated those Kirigakure ninja to attract Kakashi's attention, then had another white Zetsu seize the opportunity to snatch Rin Nohara. The first act of this play had perfectly concluded, it was time for the next step. Kagaya Tetsu's performance should also proceed to the next stage. He deliberately lagged at the back of the team, a section of white bone occasionally protruding from the tip of his right pinky finger, gently falling to the ground. According to the original timeline, after Rin Nohara was kidnapped, the three tails was sealed into her while she was unconscious. Then Kakashi, just happened to discover the cave where the hidden mist were hiding and rescued Rin Nohara. During their escape, Rin Nohara discovered she had become a Jinchuriki, and so she resolutely threw herself onto Kakashi's Chidori. What he needed to do now was to find a way for Kakashi to arrive early, before White Zetsu sealed the three tails into Rin Nohara. Rin Nohara absolutely could not become a Jinchuriki. Rin Nohara was not of the Uzumaki clan, she wouldn't last long as a Jinchuriki before losing control and self-destructing. If she died, his trump card against Kenji would be gone. Not long after, Ito Makoto, indeed led everyone to the entrance of a cave and commanded. Sealing squad, immediately prepare the sealing jutsu. We will create a Jinchuriki at dawn tomorrow. The sealing squad, entranced by Genjutsu, obediently followed orders and immediately entered the cave to begin preparations. The bonfire crackled, casting flickering light that illuminated the dense talismans covering the cliff face. The ninja of the sealing squad, controlled by the Sharingan, were seriously preparing the sealing jutsu formula. Transferring a tailed beast is an extremely difficult technical task, highly dependent on the Jinchuriki's talent. The sealing process will fail if there is the slightest mistake, and the Jinchuriki will die instantly. Although White Zetsu wanted to quickly turn Rin Nohara into the three-tails Jinchuriki, it had no choice but to wait patiently. It wasn't too flustered. Under Uchiha Madara's scheme, the plan had been smooth so far, and the tailed beast sealing would be complete by the time Kakashi found them. Snap! Someone suddenly patted its back, causing it to tremble involuntarily. Quickly turning its head, it saw that it was Kagaya Tetsu. Lord Makoto, I didn't get my fill of fighting just now. Can I go out now and pick another fight with a Konoha ninja? Seeing Kagaya Tetsu's serious expression, White Zetsu's simple brain couldn't process it immediately. Even by a White Zetsu standards, it felt that the people of the Kagaya clan had something wrong with their heads. Why are you fighting in the middle of the night? You are not allowed to act without my command. Also, don't touch me when you talk. White Zetsu, imitating Ito Makoto, put on a stern face and scolded him, while simultaneously using a Sharingan Genjutsu on Kagaya Tetsu. Yes, sir. Kagaya Tetsu didn't say anything more, obediently returned, and earnestly acted the part of a ninja hypnotized by the Sharingan. White Zetsu felt helpless. It wasn't an Uchiha after all. The three Tomo wasn't the Mangekyo, so it couldn't completely control the targets for a long time. Once the Genjutsu weakened, the target's self-awareness would loosen. Maintaining Genjutsu control over so many people was already taxing for it, and it only hoped to finish this matter as quickly as possible. In a corner it hadn't noticed, a flicker of light crossed Kagaya Tetsu's eyes. You touched White Zetsu's back and received a reward. Mayflight Technique Beginner. Just now, a blue question mark appeared above White Zetsu's back, so Kagaya Tetsu immediately found an excuse to touch it, unexpectedly gaining the Mayflight technique. This ability allows White Zetsu to move anywhere without leaving the slightest trace of its presence. Unless someone possesses extremely powerful sensory abilities or White Zetsu touches a top-tier sealing barrier, it is impossible to detect. For White Zetsu to be able to lurk in the ninja world for 1,000 years, the Mayflight technique is responsible for at least half of that success. Kagaya Tetsu's beggar's version of the Mayflight technique could only be used for about half a minute, and its speed wasn't as fast as White Zetsu's, but it still added significant assurance for what he was about to do. Kakashi should be arriving soon. Kagaya Tetsu glanced at the pitch-black cave entrance and secretly made his preparations. Outside the cave entrance, two Kirigakure Anbu were standing guard when they suddenly saw a black shadow flash in midair. Blood spurted simultaneously from their necks, and they fell to the ground with a thud before they could even sound an alarm. Kakashi used a kunai to dispatch the two, dragged their bodies into the grass, and then began observing the cave entrance. This must be the place. He glanced at the small piece of white bone in his palm and gripped it tightly. After Rin Nohara went missing, he left the injured Watanabe Shin behind and tracked them down immediately. Along the way, he occasionally found white bones, seemingly dropped by that Kagaya ninja. Kakashi suspected a trap, but he had no choice but to follow the bones to the end. Unexpectedly, by following these bones, he quickly located the Kirigakure ninja. Do people from the Kagaya clan shed bones when they get injured? Kakashi was confused, having no idea that the enemy had actively led him there. He took a deep breath and used summoning jutsu to summon his ninkin. Taku, please draw their attention outside. I'm going in to save her. Taku frowned tightly, looking worried. Kakashi, they have the numbers. You must be careful. Kakashi nodded and used body flicker to approach the cave. Inside the cave, Ito Makoto stared intently at the ceiling squad preparing the jutsu formula, his face half lit and half shadowed by the firelight, looking extremely grim. Just then, it suddenly heard several barks from outside. Lord Makoto, there are some ninkin outside. It seems the Konoha ninja have caught up. A Kirigakure Anbu came to report. White Zetsu was shocked. Wait, Kakashi shouldn't have found this place so quickly. A few of you hurry out to check the situation. The rest of you protect Rin Nohara well. He ordered sternly, and 8 or 9 Kirigakure Anbu filed out. Since they were about to transfer the tailed beast, nothing could happen to Rin Nohara, or Uchiha Madara's grand plan would be ruined. Kagaya Tetsu stood silently behind him, not saying a word. Kakashi hadn't failed his guidance, he had arrived even earlier than expected. He secretly tensed all his muscles, ready to make his move at any moment. Lightning release. Lightning ball. A white lightning ball suddenly flew from a corner of the cave and crashed near White Zetsu with a crackle, forcing it to quickly dodge. Kakashi had unexpectedly found an alternate route, locating a small path leading into the cave's interior and crawling directly out of the small hole. White Zetsu realized that the ninkin outside were just a feint, the real attack was here. Rin. Kakashi swung his short sword, easily forcing back the Kirigakure ninja in front of him. Seeing the unconscious Rin Nohara not far away, he was burning with anxiety and rushed toward her. Just as Rin Nohara was within reach, several bone bullets flew in and struck near his feet, forcing him to stop. Seeing his movement obstructed, Kagaya Tetsu seized the millisecond gap, turned, grabbed Rin Nohara, and sprinted out of the cave. White Zetsu froze, completely failing to anticipate that Kagaya Tetsu would make such a move. It guessed that because it had issued the order to protect Rin Nohara, and seeing Kakashi about to snatch Rin Nohara away, Kagaya Tetsu had followed the command by picking her up and moving her away from the enemy. You tell me if that counts as protection or not. White Zetsu ground its teeth in anger. The genjutsu of the 3 Tomo Sharingan wasn't strong enough. Hypnotized targets only executed commands mechanically and were difficult to control precisely. Kagaya Tetsu had acted suddenly and was extremely fast, sprinting out of the cave entrance in just a few steps. White Zetsu didn't even have time to call him back. If anything happened to Rin Nohara while she was in his hands, Uchiha Madara would probably squeeze it into White Zetsu juice, right? Fortunately, the target was still under genjutsu control, so it wasn't a major problem. White Zetsu ordered the remaining Kirigakure ninja to deal with Kakashi and quickly chased after Kagaya Tetsu itself. As for whether Kagaya Tetsu might have already broken free from the genjutsu, White Zetsu didn't even consider that possibility. The brainless brutes of the Kagaya clan couldn't possibly possess that kind of ability. Half done. Kagaya Tetsu kept running, the wind whistling past his ears. Ignoring White Zetsu's shouts behind him, he sprinted all the way while holding Rin Nohara. Once he had temporarily escaped White Zetsu's gaze, he stopped and began forming hand signs. Shikatsumyaku. Early fern dance. His body was like a dam with its floodgates opened, chakra surged out wildly. Simultaneously, the earth began to tremble, dirt flew up, and countless white bones, several stories high, drilled out from underground. In just a few seconds, the ground within a 100-meter radius centered on Kagaya Tetsu was completely covered in white bones, resembling a bone forest filled with the aura of death. These bones were hard and sharp, capable of piercing even stone. Even if White Zetsu were hiding underground nearby, it would certainly have been skewered and killed by now. No wonder Kimimaro was completely drained after using this move. He let out a long breath. Even with a chakra reserve close to cage level, using this ninjutsu was still a significant strain. However, he had finally played this trump card. From the moment he anticipated he might have to carry out the kidnapping mission, Kagaya Tetsu began contemplating how to develop the early fern dance. The ninjutsu itself wasn't complicated, it simply summoned a massive amount of white bone from underground, forming a bone forest to eliminate all enemies within the area. However, the amount of chakra required for the early fern dance was astonishing, and Kagaya Tetsu had prepared for a long time just to be able to barely use it. The dense white bones completely separated him from White Zetsu and Kakashi, while also firmly blocking the sight of everyone else. Kagaya Tetsu wasted no time and quickly created 2 bone clones. One bone clone transformed into Rin Nohara's appearance, while the other bone clone held the real Rin Nohara and used the mayfly technique to sneak underground and slip away. Kagaya Tetsu had originally planned to have the bone clone hide Rin Nohara within the bone forest and escape when no one was looking, but since he unexpectedly gained the mayfly technique, things became much easier. Having done all this, he silently guarded the Rin Nohara, created by the bone clone, waiting for White Zetsu to arrive. Less than half a minute later, White Zetsu appeared before him, accompanied by the sealing squad. Seeing Rin Nohara safe and sound, it immediately breathed a sigh of relief. White Zetsu had been terrified that Rin Nohara would be stabbed to death by the indiscriminate bones. Fortunately, Kagaya Tetsu had shown restraint and knew to protect the target. It really wanted to severely scold Kagaya Tetsu for acting recklessly, but it knew scolding someone under genjutsu was pointless. So, it quickly carried the bronze cauldron used to seal the 3 tails and took a few steps toward Rin Nohara. Seal her immediately. White Zetsu ordered the members of the sealing squad. The sealing squad obediently began forming hand signs. Crimson chakra flew out from the cauldron and forcefully poured into Rin Nohara's body. This method of sealing was simple and brutal, much riskier than slowly preparing the sealing jutsu formula. The Jinchuriki might not be able to withstand the tailed beast's power and could explode and die. But White Zetsu's plan had been disrupted, and with time pressing, it couldn't worry about the risks. It had to finish this performance before Kakashi arrived. Once the sealing was complete, White Zetsu saw that Rin Nohara, though looking pained, was not at risk of losing control. It nodded in satisfaction, placed a cursed seal on her heart to prevent suicide, and quickly ordered everyone to withdraw. The bone forest, having lost its chakra maintenance, quickly dissipated. Kakashi, who was frantically searching for Rin Nohara, his eyes lit up when he saw the girl lying on the ground. Rin. He rushed over like lightning and scooped up his close friend. On the other side, Kagaya Tetsu followed White Zetsu and hid, waiting for the next command. Obito, I will take good care of her. Kagaya Tetsu thought internally. He hadn't yet received a message from the bone clone, which meant the bone clone hadn't dissipated and had likely already carried Rin Nohara far away. Half a minute of the mayfly technique was enough for the bone clone to escape without anyone noticing. Having successfully secured Rin Nohara, the plan was mostly complete, but the weight in his heart hadn't completely settled. Next, it was time to face Brother Tuzi. 1000, 1001, 1002. In a dim stone chamber, a bandaged youth was diligently doing push-ups. Great, great. Obito, you're about to break your own record. A White Zetsu with a spiral face sat cross-legged on his back, enthusiastically clapping and cheering him on. Speaking of which, Obito, once you break the push-up record, can you tell me what it feels like to poop? Thud. Uchiha Obito couldn't hold it in and lost his strength, his arms giving out as he collapsed onto the ground. Don't say weird things while I'm training. He clenched his fists and yelled at Spiral White Zetsu, but the humanoid creature merely scratched its head, seemingly not quite understanding the emotion of anger. There was no point in arguing with it, so Obito simply lay down on the stone bed to rest. Rin, Kakashi, we'll meet again soon. Looking at the empty ceiling, Uchiha Obito still felt it was unbelievable. After being severely wounded at Kanabi Bridge, he thought he was going to the Pure Land, but he was unexpectedly saved by White Zetsu and brought to this mysterious cave. What happened next felt like a dream. He met Uchiha Madara, who was supposedly long dead, and White Zetsu even helped him heal his fatal injuries. During this time, Obito showed the same drive as the Might father and son, training desperately every day, planning to recover quickly and find his best friend. Hehe, Kakashi must be having a tough time without me, right? When I see Rin again, I'm definitely going to confess to her. It's just that the half of my body filled by White Zetsu is a bit ugly. Rin wouldn't mind, would she? It won't affect our descendants anyway. As Obito lay in bed fantasizing, another figure with a pitcher plant on its head suddenly emerged from beside him. Obito, this is bad. I just saw two Konoha ninja being ambushed on the surface. It seems to be Kakashi and Rin Nohara, whom you often talk about. Crack. Obito felt as if he had been struck by lightning, every hair on his body standing on end. He scrambled out of bed and rushed straight towards the outside. The entrance to the cave was blocked by a huge rock. Obito didn't even think, punching out, and his entire body slammed hard against the stone wall. Unfortunately, the stone wall didn't budge, but the arm repaired by White Zetsu was shattered by the impact. Hey, don't mess around. It took me so long to fix your body. The pitcher plant White Zetsu shouted from behind. Obito trembled all over, his remaining Sharingan spinning wildly, preparing to strike the stone wall again. Even if he died crashing here, he had to get out and save them. Just then, Spiral White Zetsu caught up. Idiot, you can't do it like that. Come, put me on. With that, he spread his body open, enveloping Obito like a piece of clothing. Obito was stunned, not knowing Spiral White Zetsu could be used this way, and immediately felt his limbs fill with power. Thanks. Using White Zetsu's power, he struck the stone wall again with a fierce blow. After a loud bang, flying stones, a path to the outside appeared before him. Obito was about to run out when he suddenly remembered something and looked back nervously. Not far away, a decrepit old man sat in a stone chair, his head bowed low. Madara, I want to go save my comrades. Obito spoke softly, his tone filled with inquiry. After Uchiha Madara saved him here, he hadn't made any demands of him, nor had he even spoken many words to him, leaving Obito unable to guess what this guy wanted. Now that he was about to leave, would this infamous Asura of the ninja world really let him go so easily? To his surprise, Madara didn't even look at him, just waved his hand casually. Be careful yourself. With Madara's permission, Obito no longer hesitated, rushing out like a wild rabbit released from its cage. After he ran far away, Uchiha Madara's face showed a cold smile. He had long ago sent White Zetsu to scout Minato's squad's movements. After Minato's squad went to the Land of Frost, he used a small trick to expose Sarutobi Shinnosuke's squad's location, guiding the cloud-hidden ninja to ambush them, forcing Minato to rush to their rescue alone. After luring Minato away, he immediately had a Kirigakure squad controlled by White Zetsu set out to capture Rin Nohara alive. So far, everything was going according to his plan, except for a slight deviation in the ceiling of Rin Nohara. Looking in the direction Obito had left, Uchiha Madara quietly instructed the pitcher plant White Zetsu. Find a way to retrieve the eye from Kakashi Hatake. That fool Uchiha Obito actually gave his Sharingan to an outsider, which greatly displeased Madara. Might as well take back what belongs to the Uchiha during this grand play. In the dense forest, Kakashi and Rin Nohara were running at top speed. Rin, hold on. As long as we get out of this forest, the Land of Fire border isn't far. Kakashi loudly encouraged the girl beside him. Rin Nohara was also full of excitement. Kakashi, thank you for not giving up on me. We'll definitely go home. No sooner had she spoken than Rin Nohara suddenly stopped. What's wrong? Kakashi had to stop as well, quickly asking. Rin Nohara frowned tightly, her beautiful features twisted in a knot, her hand clutching her stomach. Kakashi, I feel something inside me. Something. Kakashi's eyes widened, not understanding what Rin Nohara meant by that. Rin Nohara suddenly showed a look of terror. It's a tailed beast. They sealed a tailed beast inside me while I was unconscious. Kakashi was completely stunned, unable to speak for a long time. As a Jonin, he naturally understood what this meant. Rin Nohara was not Uzumaki Kushina, her body was not suitable to be a Jinchuriki. With a tailed beast violently sealed inside her, her body could lose control at any moment. If the tailed beast went berserk after they returned to Konoha, the consequences would be unimaginable. Even if Konoha was skilled in sealing jutsu and could seal the three tails in time, Rin would certainly not survive. He finally understood. No wonder the Kirigakure ninja hadn't pursued them aggressively but had consciously driven them towards Konoha. It was to make Rin Nohara detonate the tailed beast within the village. Kakashi's mouth felt bitter, his throat dry, and suddenly the world turned black and white. He had finally rescued his dear friend, but he never expected such a result. Rin Nohara gave a mournful smile, her face turning resolute. Kakashi, kill me. She spoke calmly. Kakashi instinctively took 2 steps back. No, no, what are you saying, Rin? I promised Obito I would protect you. How could I kill you? Rin Nohara shook her head, her eyes full of determination. Kakashi, for me and for the village, this is the best option. The girl's sweet and soft voice now sounded like a whisper from hell to Kakashi. Just as he hesitated, with a few whooshes, over 10 bone bullets flew towards them. Kakashi dodged the bone bullets and saw that the Kagaya ninja had caught up, with over 10 Kirigakure Anbu behind him. They had no retreat, they could only continue towards the village. Kakashi, I seem to have been placed under a curse mark, so I can't kill myself. Hurry and do it. Rin Nohara urged anxiously. Kakashi gritted his teeth, his fists clenching with a cracking sound. No, we'll go back to the village first. The Sandame and Lady Kushina definitely have a way. With that, he pulled Rin Nohara behind him and charged towards the attacking Kirigakure ninja. Lightning release. Reikiri. Blazing electricity bloomed in the youth's palm, and a heart-pounding crackling sound vibrated in his eardrums. With the help of his Sharingan, Kakashi transformed into a streak of light, charging towards the foremost enemy. Once Reikiri's charge was unleashed, it couldn't be stopped, so when Kakashi saw the figure running from the side, there was nothing he could do. Puchi. The sticky sensation of flesh came, and Kakashi's mouth gaped as he looked at the pair of eyes so close. At the exact moment he launched his attack, Rin Nohara had deliberately lunged into it. Those deer-like brown eyes, those eyes that once brought him and Obito endless warmth, were now rapidly dimming. Rin Nohara coughed up a large amount of blood, unable to even utter a final word. The girl struggled to raise her arms, gently grasping Kakashi's arm that had pierced her chest, as if saying a final farewell to her dear friend. That was close. Kagaya Tetsu, standing in the distance, finally felt relieved at this sight. The Rin Nohara was a bone clone. Although it could temporarily contain the immense chakra of the 3 tails, it wouldn't last long before its true nature was revealed. Fortunately, the act was successfully completed before exposure. At the same time, Rin Nohara had also touched Kakashi's arm, earning a new reward. Kagaya Tetsu didn't have time to check what the reward was, quickly retreating a few steps and shielding his teammates in front of him. Because he saw Uchiha Obito's figure in the distance. The youth in the white Zetsu battle armor had just arrived, witnessing this scene firsthand. I am in hell. Such a thought flashed through Uchiha Obito's mind. As Kakashi killed Rin Nohara, Kagaya Tetsu completed his hand seals. Fire release. Great fireball technique. A scorching fireball spewed forth, its flames engulfing Rin Nohara's body. The bone clone seized the opportunity to disperse, leaving only a few charred bones moments later. Kakashi was still immersed in the heartbreaking emotion of killing his best friend. Caught off guard, he was also hit by the fireball, flying several meters away and falling unconscious to the ground. The pitcher plant White Zetsu, who had been lurking nearby, saw Kakashi unconscious and quickly sent a message to the Kirigakure ninja transformed from other White Zetsu. The White Zetsu understood, and seemingly casually, they blocked Kakashi, perfectly obscuring Obito's view from a distance. Taking advantage of this fleeting moment, the pitcher plant White Zetsu reached out and gently plucked Kakashi's Sharingan from his eye socket, then quickly departed. The White Zetsu did not kill Kakashi, this was Uchiha Madara's order. He wanted Obito to taste the deepest pain in the world, and for an Uchiha, witnessing a former best friend betray them was far more agonizing than being tortured to death. The sharp pain from his eye socket instantly woke Kakashi. He touched his bleeding left eye, his face filled with shock. The Sharingan Obito had given him was gone. Looking around, there was no trace of the eyeball nearby either. Could it be that when he was hit by the fire release just now, his eyeball popped out and was burned away? Losing an eye was not uncommon on the battlefield, and Kakashi didn't have time to think too much. He couldn't waste the opportunity Rin Nohara had bought with her life. He quickly scrambled to his feet and rushed towards Konoha. Rin couldn't die in vain, he had to tell the village about the Hidden Mist Village's plot. Ho! They even took the eye. Kagaya Tetsu watched coldly, observing the White Zetsu's small actions. This was unexpected, but he wasn't surprised. Given Uchiha Madara's arrogance, he would never want a Sharingan to fall into the hands of an outsider. It was just that in the original timeline, the White Zetsu probably didn't find an opportunity to do this. He hadn't expected that his interference would give the White Zetsu a chance to retrieve the Sharingan. He gave a bitter smile. Rin Nohara was saved, but Kakashi lost his Sharingan, and Obito was probably about to gain double Kamui. Kagaya Tetsu didn't know how terrifying Obito with double Kamui would be. For now, he had to deal with the Obito in front of him. Just as Kakashi ran off, Obito arrived. Ah, ah, ah. The boy who once loved to laugh was now howling like a beast. Kagaya Tetsu worried that his next words would be, "Revive, my love." Obito picked up a few fragments of Rin Nohara's bones and clutched them tightly to his chest. The Kanabi Bridge battle felt like it was just yesterday, and Kakashi's words still echoed in Obito's ears. Obito, don't worry, I will definitely protect Rin, even if it costs my life. He hadn't expected that just a few months later, he would witness Kakashi kill the person he loved most. As for Rin Nohara, she was pulverized by the fire release attack, he couldn't even cry while holding her corpse. Intense hatred surged like a tide, his eyes stung repeatedly, and thick, crimson blood slowly flowed from his eye sockets. The tomo in Obito's eyes spun faster and faster, instantly merging into a single, eerie pattern. He looked at the dozen or so Kirigakure ninja around him and spoke coldly. Die. These Kirigakure ninja had just been released from the genjutsu by the White Zetsu, and they looked at the scene before them with blank expressions. Bro, where did you bring me? Wasn't the mission to detonate the tailed beast in Konoha? Swish. A sharp, pointed tree branch suddenly grew from the ground, followed by a second, then a third. Pushing sounds filled the air as dense branches pierced through all the Kirigakure ninja, including the White Zetsu who had transformed into Itu Makoto, impaling them high in the air. These injuries were nothing to the White Zetsu, but the act had to be complete. Obito absolutely could not discover any flaws. A light rain fell, but the rainwater was red. Obito stood in the blood rain, looking at the wood release that had suddenly reappeared in his hands, without a trace of joy. He was looking for someone. He had noticed earlier that there were 17 Kirigakure Anbu, and he had only killed 16. There was still one who had escaped. He quickly found his target, charging forward like a cannonball, shattering the ground beneath his feet. None of you will escape. Obito gritted his teeth, once again mobilizing the power of wood release. The ant-like Kirigakure ninja, however, did not run, but stood still. Obito thought he was scared stiff. He felt no pity. As he was still a few meters away, blade-like branches had already burst from the ground, surging forward with an unstoppable momentum, seemingly about to tear Kagaya Tetsu into pieces. At that moment, he saw Kagaya Tetsu calmly forming hand seals. Shikatsumyaku. Early fern dance. Sharp, bone-white spikes once again grew wildly from beneath the ground, transforming into rows of deadly bone giant waves, instantly engulfing Obito. Since I'm here, I have to touch it before I run. Kagaya Tetsu stood in the forest of bones, his gaze fixed on the front. A golden question mark had appeared on his mental map, right on Obito. Kagaya Tetsu could have left using the mayfly technique long ago, but this was the first time he encountered a golden question mark, and he had to get it no matter what. In front of the Mangekyo Sharingan, bone clones would be seen through, he had to go in person. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Kagaya Tetsu didn't believe that with his cheat and intelligence, he would die at Kenji's hands. What is this? Obito, trapped deep within the bone forest, was filled with astonishment. He had never seen such a terrifying ninjutsu. A bone pierced through the center of his chest, but it caused him no harm. As soon as the early fern dance was activated, his Mangekyo Sharingan had made his body intangible. Is this my new ability? Experiencing the wondrous sensation brought by Kamui, Uchiha Obito felt both joy and bitterness in his heart. How wonderful it would be if the three of them were still together. HMPH, such tricks can't kill me. Obito snorted coldly, continuing to unleash the power of wood release. Several thick tree trunks grew rapidly, easily overturning large sections of bones and exposing an open space. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind struck, and Obito felt a chill at the back of his head. He had no time to dodge, and his head was split in half. A bone blade passed through his face, suspended in midair. This kind of attack is meaningless to me. Obito said coldly, as several branches had already emerged from the ground, attacking the assailant from behind. Shikatsumyaku, Dance of the Camellia. Keigaya Tetsu wielded his bone blade. His figure, a fusion of Keigaya clan taijutsu and kenjutsu, was elusive, like a dancing butterfly, swirling among the deadly branches. With a few swishes, the branches generated by wood release were cut down by the bone blade, sending wood chips flying everywhere. Obito, enraged, continued to generate more branches, but he could never stab Keigaya Tetsu's body. Is that all you've got? Keigaya Tetsu teased softly, continuing his elegant yet deadly sword dance. In a ninja battle, intelligence is always the key factor. The current Obito only had raw power. His combat experience was merely that of an ordinary chunin. Kamui had just awakened, and his wood release mainly relied on the support provided by Spiral White Zetsu. For Keigaya Tetsu, who understood his intelligence, it wasn't difficult to hold his own against him for a while. Of course, Keigaya Tetsu's goal was not to dance with Obito. Continuous ineffective attacks gradually made Obito furious. He snapped off a spear-like branch and roared loudly. Don't you dare dodge. The Uchiha boy finally couldn't hold back, controlling wood release to attack while charging towards Keigaya Tetsu. The opponent's hands were busy swinging his blade to deal with the wood release. He definitely wouldn't be able to block a close-range attack. Unexpectedly, when he was less than a meter away from Keigaya Tetsu, he saw the latter reveal a cunning smile. Shikatsumyaku, Dance of the Larch. 6 or 7 sharp bone spikes pierced through Keigaya Tetsu's skin, turning him into a human hedgehog. Watch out! Spiral White Zetsu exclaimed a warning, but Obito charged too fiercely, unable to stop, and crashed directly onto the bone spikes. He instantly gained several bloody holes on his body, his face filled with disbelief. That ability to make his body intangible had failed. Keigaya Tetsu knew that the moment Obito launched an attack, Kamui would become ineffective, but Obito, who had just awakened Kamui, obviously didn't know this. Taking the risk to use this move at close range was also for the golden reward. At this moment, Obito was covered in blood, and his blood emitted a golden aura that only Keigaya Tetsu could see, meaning he had to touch Obito's blood to get the reward. Having touched Obito's blood, Keigaya Tetsu retracted his bone spikes, turned, and ran. Ah! The intense pain in his body devoured his rationality. Obito was utterly enraged. He had clearly gained such powerful abilities, yet not only did he fail to defeat this nameless person, he was even toyed with and severely injured. Toyed with before awakening, still toyed with after awakening, wasn't this awakening for nothing? He frantically squeezed the chakra within his body, the earth violently trembled, and dozens of large trees shot up from the ground, overwhelmingly engulfing Keigaya Tetsu. In his extreme rage, Uchiha Obito used a low-tier version of Deep Forest Emergence. The rampant trees completely swallowed Keigaya Tetsu, and Obito personally watched as this Kirigakure ninja was bound by countless branches and dragged deep underground. Even if this guy could use earth release, he would be tightly entangled by the tree roots underground and suffocated to death. Underground, Keigaya Tetsu easily passed through the tree roots and quickly left. The mayfly technique was originally based on moving through plant root systems. These tree roots were virtually non-existent to him. This should have fooled Uchiha Madara. He mused to himself. The previous battle was not only for the reward but also deliberately performed for Uchiha Madara to make him believe that he, the one who slipped away, had been killed. Otherwise, he would face endless pursuit. Now, it was time to find a safe place to enjoy the reward. Late night. Uchiha Madara still had his head bowed, only the gentle tapping of his fingers on the stone chair revealing his slight irritation. Through the white zetsu, he had been remotely observing Obito's battle. He hadn't expected that small Kirigakure grunt to be able to fight a genius Uchiha for so long, even severely injuring Obito. If not for the white zetsu's protection, his important pawn might have been completely lost. Fortunately, a talented bug was still just a bug, unable to affect his plans. Just then, he saw Uchiha Obito standing at the cave entrance. The boy's clothes were tattered, and he was covered in wounds, like an asura who had just crawled out of hell. By your expression, you must have seen hell. Uchiha Madara spoke faintly. Obito walked over, his voice laced with a chilling coldness. I will destroy the Hidden Mist Village. No, I will destroy this world. I will create a world with Rin. He fell to his knees, sobbing uncontrollably. Uchiha Madara slowly rose and offered a Mangekyo Sharingan to the boy plunged into darkness. It seems your friend's eye popped out when he was struck in the eye socket. White Zetsu took the opportunity to bring it back to you. Hurry up, you still have much to learn. The structure of the Hidden Mist prison is different from other places. The 3 underground floors house the criminals, and the 3 above-ground floors are for staff offices. But above the 3rd floor, there is a 4th floor, where a single, luxurious office occupies the entire vast area, reserved only for the warden. At least, until today, that was the case. Warden Dono, your writing is too loud, it's disturbing me. Kagaya Tetsu sat on the warden's expensive deep-sea fish skin chair, resting his long legs casually on the desk while resting his eyes. The warden, who was furiously writing his report, paused, and several veins subtly bulged on his forehead. Seeing this, Kagaya Tetsu said blandly. If the warden feels I am disturbing your work, you can send me back to my cell. Hearing this, the warden flinched, quickly waved his hands, and offered a forced smile. No trouble at all, no trouble. He reluctantly put down his pen, secretly cursing that stinking Kagaya brat in his heart. A few days ago, Kagaya Tetsu returned to the Hidden Mist Village, first reporting the mission failure to the Anbu, and was immediately thrown into prison afterward. An entire Anbu squad was wiped out, and the 3 Tails was lost. As the mission's sole survivor, Kagaya Tetsu was the only scapegoat, destined to be heavily guarded and interrogated. Like most people in the Hidden Mist Village, the warden also hated this Kagaya guy, so he directly threw Kagaya Tetsu onto the 3rd underground floor, locking him up with a group of vicious, heavily convicted criminals. That very night, he received an urgent report from his subordinates saying that Kagaya Tetsu had slaughtered all his cellmates, leaving a gruesome scene. The warden flew into a rage and subsequently moved Kagaya Tetsu to 2 more cells, each with increasingly ferocious cellmates. Then, those unlucky prisoners were all annihilated. Kagaya Tetsu, bored, even pulled out the bones from the corpses to play with, terrifying the guards and the other inmates. Is there still justice? Is there still law? Just as the warden was preparing to execute him, he suddenly received a letter from Mei Terumi containing only 1 sentence. Take good care of Kagaya Tetsu. He immediately complied, inviting Kagaya Tetsu directly to his office to serve him. What could he do? Mei Terumi was Genshi's disciple and a strong contender for the 4th Mizukage. Hearing Kagaya Tetsu say he wanted to go back to his cell, he immediately refused. Not only would he risk offending Mei Terumi, but he simply didn't have enough prisoners left for this lunatic to kill. What a pity. Kagaya Tetsu sighed inwardly. The Hidden Mist prison was full of talented people who spoke nicely, and most importantly, there were some question marks he could farm. Although most were white and green question marks, tiny gains were better than none. He secretly regretted pulling out the corpses, bones to play with. He wasn't actually a pervert, he just liked playing with bones since childhood, it was the same as playing with figurines. At that moment, an Anbu suddenly entered, glanced at Kagaya Tetsu, and spoke to the warden. I need to take him to the council hall immediately for interrogation. The warden stood up excitedly. That's wonderful. He was finally getting rid of this plague god. Kagaya Tetsu followed the Anbu out, deep in thought. Many in the village wanted to wipe out the Kagaya clan, let alone him, a genius within the clan. If things went as expected, this interrogation would likely end badly. Fine, it's time to use some methods to dispel some unrealistic notions. One cannot guard against a thief for 1,000 days, he couldn't constantly watch out for assassination attempts from behind. In that case, he might as well take the initiative. Inside the Hidden Mist Village Council Hall, dozens of high-ranking village officials gathered. It wasn't surprising that the most important person, the 3rd Mizukage, hadn't shown up, that mysterious cage rarely appeared. Moreover, the Mizukage was largely responsible for this disastrous mission failure. Furthermore, the Kagaya clan did not attend. Discussing matters in a meeting was too mentally taxing and boring for them. The Sandame actually hid this from us, sending the Anbu and a tailed beast to attack Konoha. Is he insane? I've long advised the Sandame not to get involved in the war. Konoha just defeated Iwagakure at Kanabi Bridge, they are clearly about to win, so why provoke them? If you ask me, we should immediately send an envoy to Konoha, claim it was a misunderstanding, and quickly sign a peace treaty. The typically solemn dignitaries were arguing loudly among themselves until a gentle voice sounded. Please be quiet. The voice wasn't loud, but everyone obediently fell silent, respectfully looking at the old monk seated at the head. It was the hidden mist village elder, Genshi. Genshi silently scanned the crowd, inexplicably feeling that a few more wrinkles had appeared on his face. Sandame, you've truly created a huge mess. This time, the third Mizukage secretly sent over a dozen Anbu to raid Konoha behind everyone's backs, even bringing the three tails. Unexpectedly, they encountered an ambush en route and were almost completely annihilated, and the vessel sealing the three tails was also destroyed. The sealing vessel was similar to a Jinchuriki. Once destroyed, the tailed beast would also die. This meant the hidden mist village had needlessly lost a tailed beast, with incalculable consequences. Have the village's problems really become this severe? Genshi sighed inwardly. He understood the Mizukage's reason for taking such a risk. The hidden mist village was declining, and the major bloodline limit clans within the village were stirring. To shift the focus and solidify his position, the Mizukage had to act. It was just that the price was far too heavy. Just then, a subordinate reported that Kagaya Tetsu had arrived. Genshi braced himself and ordered him to be brought in. I will do my best to protect this child. He thought silently. Mei Terumi had sought him out many times over the past few days, pleading with him to help Kagaya Tetsu. Genshi always granted the wishes of his only beloved disciple. Besides, Kagaya Tetsu probably didn't need his protection. Kagaya Tetsu failed an important mission, was thrown into prison but not executed, and was even arranged to attend this so-called interrogation. This itself demonstrated the Mizukage's attitude. Kagaya Tetsu soon walked in, and dozens of pairs of cannibalistic eyes were instantly fixed upon him. The village had suffered a severe blow. They didn't have the guts to directly attack the Mizukage, but they certainly had the courage, and plenty of it, to attack the Kagaya brat. Kagaya Tetsu ignored the stares, walked straight to Genshi, smiled, and bowed. Genshi Dono, thank you. He knew that Genshi must have gone to great lengths to help him. Although he didn't need it. Genshi nodded gently, signaling him to sit down first. He had only met Kagaya Tetsu a few times, but his impression was decent. He felt this young man was unlike those Kagaya lunatics. Tetsu, this mission was extremely important. We invited you here today because we want you to describe the events in detail. He deliberately downplayed the nature of the interrogation. Kagaya Tetsu nodded and recounted the mission from start to finish again. Of course, he didn't mention Uchiha Madara or Rin Nohara. He only said that they had originally planned to raid Konoha with the tailed beast, but were ambushed halfway. After a fierce battle, the sealing vessel was destroyed, and he managed to escape thanks to a newly mastered ninjutsu. As soon as he finished speaking, a handsomely dressed, noble-looking white-haired man spoke. Kagaya Tetsu, you have returned alone from 2 consecutive missions. There are only 2 possibilities. Either you are a deserter, or you are the spy who betrayed your comrades. As soon as these words were spoken, many people nodded in agreement. Counting the previous mission in the Land of Bears and this one in the Land of Frost, Kagaya Tetsu's teammates were completely wiped out, leaving only him to run back. That's too outrageous. Kagaya Tetsu looked at the questioning man and said blandly. Asuka Dono, I have already said that I escaped by relying on a newly mastered ninjutsu. This man was Hazuka Asuka, the user of the twin swords, Haramakare, and the strongest among the first generation of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. Today, he represented the 7 ninja swordsmen in the interrogation. Kagaya Tetsu also knew where his hostility came from. Back then, the Hazuka and Kagaya fought many times over the position of second Mizukage, resulting in many deaths. While they weren't exactly brothers, they could certainly be described as being completely incompatible. Seeing that Kagaya Tetsu showed no signs of yielding, Hazuka Asuka snorted coldly. As far as I know, you are only a chunin. Ito Makoto Jonin, who led your team, was killed. What ninjutsu did you rely on to survive? Just a reminder, if you can't prove it, then you are lying. Seeing Hazuka Asuka being aggressive, Genshi was about to intervene when he suddenly saw Kagaya Tetsu stand up, a gentle smile on his face. This is the proof. He formed a few hand seals, but nothing happened. Just as everyone looked confused, someone suddenly pointed outside the window. Look! Around the building where the council hall was located, countless stark white objects suddenly appeared. Bones. Hazuka Asuka also saw the strange sight and couldn't help but mutter under his breath. A dense forest of white bones surrounded the council hall. Each bone was over 10 meters long, tipped like a sharp blade, glittering in the sunlight. Immediately afterward, these white bones began to grow and spread inward, faster and closer. Stop quickly. Someone realized what might happen and quickly told Kagaya Tetsu to stop. If the forest of white bones was allowed to grow unchecked, they would soon be stabbed to death. Many people present were jonin, but there were also many nobles with mediocre strength who couldn't possibly escape this death trap. Curses and pleas echoed through the council hall. The crowd instantly descended into chaos. Everyone knew the Kagaya clan tended to produce lunatics, but this level of madness was unprecedented. Spineless. Kagaya Tetsu stood with his hands behind his back, silently enjoying the disgraceful state of the group. Moments ago, this group thought they were the executioners, calm and composed. Now, facing desperation, they were scrambling and crawling away in panic. Assertive before, subservient after, it was laughable. The forest of white bones spread until it was just 1 meter away from the building, finally stopping. Kagaya Tetsu sat back down, his gentle smile unchanged. Now, do you believe me? Clatter. Countless white bones shattered and fell to the ground like a sudden downpour of hail, striking fear into everyone's hearts. No one dared to say, "I don't believe it," anymore. With such an ability, it wasn't impossible for Kagaya Tetsu to escape. Many who had originally wanted to use this opportunity to eliminate Kagaya Tetsu and severely damage the Kagaya clan also temporarily put away their petty thoughts. Hazuka Asuka's face was ashen, with a million questions in his mind. It's true that this brat is a genius, and it's very possible his strength will surpass the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist in the future. The problem is, how did his strength improve so much after just one mission? He suddenly looked at Genshi. Elder Genshi, Kagaya Tetsu put everyone in danger, aren't you going to do something about it? He had long seen that this old monk was being partial. Genshi clasped his hands together and chuckled. You are all people with great kindness, the gods and Buddhas will surely protect you. There will be no problems. Furthermore, didn't everyone want him to prove himself? Now it seems Kagaya Tetsu should be cleared of spy suspicions. He dismissed the other party with 2 light sentences. At this moment, Kagaya Tetsu smiled. Lord Asuka, why don't you try to manage me? Blatant provocation. Those emerald green eyes quietly watched Hazuka Asuka, like an unfathomable pool of water, ready to drag Hazuka Asuka in at any moment. As the strongest among the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, Hazuka Asuka uncharacteristically felt a hint of danger. If he were to face that forest of white bones, would he win? He would win. Hazuka Asuka was confident he could win against Kagaya Tetsu, but not confident he could emerge unscathed. As a senior in the village and an elite jonin, it was impossible for him to fight a brat in front of everyone. It doesn't matter, there will be plenty of opportunities. He changed his attitude, revealing the smile only found on children of prominent families who have undergone years of training. Che-kun, since you've proven yourself, I have nothing more to say. I'll follow Elder Genshi's arrangements. With the one who led the attack surrendering, the others had even less to say. Genshi nodded and continued. Tetsu has proven his innocence. Now, let's discuss the second issue. Next, how do we face Konoha? The Hidden Mist village is deep inland, and its attempt to be the first village to use a tailed beast is something Konoha will absolutely not let slide. Although Konoha's overall strength is not as great as it was during the Second Ninja World War, it is still not something the Hidden Mist village can provoke. The mess created by the Mizukage ultimately needs to be resolved. Everyone immediately began a heated discussion again. Kagaya Tetsu sat next to Genshi, thanking him for his assistance earlier. Tetsu, you're the only Kagaya clan member here today. Aren't you going to express your opinion? Genshi asked curiously. The young man who had just displayed extraordinary strength should, by rights, be quite excited and talkative at this moment. Kagaya Tetsu smiled. Lord Genshi, our opinions don't matter. The two exchanged smiles and said nothing more. The person who could make the final decision wasn't here today, so what was the point of them discussing so much? Genshi subtly observed the young man before him, somewhat surprised. Kagaya Tetsu not only didn't resemble a Kagaya clan member, but he also didn't seem like a child. From Kagaya Tetsu's performance just now, he could tell that this boy was meticulous, calm, and composed, handling things with just the right measure. Even he couldn't have done that at his age. It's as if an external soul resides in that body. Genshi thought to himself. This time, the discussion didn't last too long. An Anbu member came to relay a command. Lord Mizukage has commanded to continue the attack. He finished speaking and turned to leave, not caring what others thought. The others looked disgruntled but expressed their obedience. The Mizukage might not come, but they couldn't disobey the Mizukage's words. After all, the Hidden Mist Village's last remaining tailed beast could only be suppressed by the Mizukage. Kagaya Tetsu was not surprised by the outcome and had no objections. Only by continuing the war would he have the opportunity to earn more rewards. After leaving the council chamber, Kagaya Tetsu went home alone. He had gained a lot from this mission, as well as the golden question mark reward he had reaped from Kenji. He couldn't wait to go back and savor it. Walking down the street, the light in front of him suddenly dimmed. He looked up to find 7 or 8 burly men blocking his path. Passers-by seeing these burly men quickly fled in a panic, and even nearby shops closed their doors, hanging up, closed, signs. These men wore identical white robes, and their burly heads were styled with girlish topknots, which looked very incongruous. Even pointy heads look better than this, Kagaya Tetsu secretly grumbled. He had changed his hair to resemble Kimamaro's precisely because he disliked this uniform hairstyle within the clan. But fortunately, these guys weren't buzz-cut, round-faced, and bearded. Tetsu, you haven't returned to the clan territory in a long time. The leading man stepped forward, baring his white teeth and revealing a somewhat nervous smile. Patriarch Daisuke, I'm used to living alone, so I won't go back and bother you all, Kagaya Tetsu replied indifferently. The group of people before him were his own clan members. Seeing Kagaya Tetsu's perfunctory answer, Kagaya Daisuke didn't dwell on the issue, lowering his voice and saying, Tetsu, we heard about your performance in the council chamber today. You did very well, truly worthy of being my clan member. Several Kagaya ninja showed ecstatic expressions, only regretting that they weren't present. Otherwise, they would surely have made that Hazuka fool bleed. Kagaya Daisuke's body trembled slightly with excitement as he continued. I never expected you to master the early fern dance on your own. That ability is only recorded in the clan's ancient texts, even I couldn't learn it. Tetsu, I believe you haven't forgotten the Kagaya clan's dream. Why don't you return to the family and do something together while the war hasn't ended and the Mizukage's prestige is weakened? Seeing the clan members' eager gazes, Kagaya Tetsu was somewhat speechless. As expected of a bunch of guys whose brains are controlled by muscles, even when plotting, don't be so loud. This wasn't the first time Kagaya Daisuke had sought him out, so he knew this so-called dream was to overthrow the Mizukage and put the Kagaya family in power. As one of the founding families of the village, the Kagaya's combat power has always been formidable, and they have coveted the Mizukage's position for a long time. In the past, countless clan members died fighting for the second Mizukage until Hazuka Genjutsu displayed his invincible steam imp, forcing them to reluctantly give up. However, the Kagaya clan's ambition never faded, instead, it grew more intense. Kagaya Tetsu understood them. These berserkers wanted to be Mizukage not for power, money, or such things. They simply wanted to prove they were the strongest. For the Kagaya people, failing to be the strongest was as painful as becoming an incompetent husband. But Kagaya Tetsu had no intention of cooperating with his clan members. Perhaps it was due to resentment from failing to gain power, or perhaps a genetic issue as descendants of the Six Paths, but the clan members' bloodlust had grown heavier over the years. Street killings were considered minor, and there had even been many incidents of harming teammates, leading to very few people willing to interact with the Kagaya. Not only that, Kagaya clan members were busy fighting all day, with few willing to spend time having children, and the children born often died young due to fighting. Now, the clan's population was sparse. Rebel. How many divisions do you have? Kagaya Tetsu's parents had long disapproved of the clan members' actions, which is why they took him to live outside from a young age. Ignoring Kagaya Daisuke's expectant gaze, Kagaya Tetsu said in a deep voice. Patriarch, I don't know what your dreams are, but my dream is to properly assist Lord Mizukage and ensure the Hidden Mist village wins this war. At this moment, he radiated loyalty. Who knew if there were Anbu around? The act had to be convincing. Behind Kagaya Daisuke, a muscular young clan member sneered and spoke. Let me remind you, don't follow your cowardly parents, they died an unclear death and became a disgrace to the clan. He was Kagaya Daisuke's confidant and was very displeased to see Kagaya Tetsu directly reject his boss. The next second, he felt a tightening in his throat, unable to speak, and everything before his eyes turned crimson. He made a hoarse sound, clutching his neck as he fell. Kagaya Tetsu shot a bone bullet, lowered his right hand, and strode away. Watching his retreating figure, Kagaya Daisuke was not angry but rather pleased. So spirited. Kagaya Tetsu's desire for slaughter had not diminished, which made him very happy. This boy was still a pure Kagaya clan member. Dispose of the body. Don't let the village have a chance to study the Shikatsumyaku. Also, don't disturb Kagaya Tetsu for now until the organization is fully prepared. Let him train on his own. He ordered in a deep voice. He believed that once Kagaya Tetsu saw the true strength of the organization, he would return to the family without hesitation. There were 2 trees outside Kagaya Tetsu's house. One was a plum tree, and the other was also a plum tree. His mother liked drinking plum wine, but Kirigakure ninja earned little, and since his parents had essentially left the Kagaya clan, they didn't have much money to buy alcohol. So, his father planted 2 plum trees himself to brew wine, which his mother loved. Unfortunately, before the plums could ripen, his parents went to the battlefield, and they never got to drink the wine. However, the small, bare saplings from back then are now towering and lush. I'm back. Kagaya Tetsu habitually touched the 2 trees, greeted them, and entered the courtyard. After closing the courtyard gate, he immediately checked his gains. Explorer. Kagaya Tetsu. Chakra amount. 9.7. Chakra affinity. Water, lightning, fire. Bloodline. Kagaya Shikatsumyaku, Uchiha bloodline. Kekkei Genkei abilities. Bone clone, 10-finger piercing bullet, dance of the larch, early fern dance. Talents. Malice perception, 100-fold comprehension, genjutsu immunity. Ninjutsu. 3 body technique D water release. Hiding in mist technique D water release. Water formation wall B water release. Water dragon bullet technique B water release. Water blade /C. Kenjutsu. White fang blade technique beginner. Taijutsu. Kagaya fighting style. Special ability. Mayfly technique beginner. I really have to thank Kakashi and Obito, that pair of star-crossed lovers. Kagaya Tetsu sighed softly. This time, apart from the Mayfly technique, all the other major prizes were snatched from those 2. From Kakashi, he obtained the beginner-level White Fang Blade technique, as well as Lightning Affinity Chakra, which was extremely rare. There's no need to elaborate on the White Fang Blade technique. Even at the beginner level, it significantly boosts his close combat capabilities. Lightning Affinity Chakra is also quite uncommon. Not only is it strong, but most importantly, it's cool. Kagaya Tetsu had wanted it for a long time. If it hadn't been for Kakashi, he might have had to find a way to grind it out from those guys in Kumogakure. Of course, the biggest gain this time was the golden reward provided by Obito. Uchiha bloodline. As everyone knows, in this world, if you don't have a good bloodline, it's like the West losing Jerusalem, or the 3D zone losing Sister Tifa, everything loses meaning. The value of the Uchiha bloodline goes without saying. That clan also produces many madmen and madwomen, and the bloodline is very suitable for Kagaya Tetsu's physique. Merely obtaining the bloodline doesn't mean automatically possessing the Sharingan, he still needs to find an opportunity to awaken it. Speaking of the Sharingan, I wonder what will happen to Kakashi. He recalled the scene of White Zetsu gouging out Kakashi's eye, that Mangekyo should have already been returned to Obito. Kakashi might no longer have the title, Copy Ninja. However, it's hard to say whether that Sharingan was good or bad for Kakashi. Despite being an absolute genius, the Sharingan later drained Kakashi so badly he suffered from kidney deficiency, greatly reducing his strength. In short, due to his interference, the fates of certain people seem to be undergoing drastic changes. He shook his head, stopped thinking about Kakashi, and began quietly planning his next steps. He now possessed Jonin-level strength, and if he disregarded the risk of chakra depletion and contracting the bloodline limit disease by frantically using the Shikatsumyaku, he could probably take on an elite Jonin. But to fight Obito and Madara, he was still missing a tiny bit. Not to mention there was a woman on the moon watching intently, constantly wanting to beat everyone in the ninja world to their knees and drag them into the divine tree as slaves. He didn't know when Obito came to Hidden Mist Village to control the Mizukage, but based on the timeline, it should have been at least a few years after the Third Great Ninja War. The current half-dead Hidden Mist Village certainly couldn't fight Obito, especially since Obito now wielded double Kamui, making him a true mechanism monster. Therefore, his main objective was simple: utilize this war to raise his status and strength, then take control of the Hidden Mist Village and fully prepare to counter double Kamui Obito. Furthermore, Kagaya Tetsu discovered that the detection range of the system map and the drop rate of high-level question marks also seemed to increase with his strength. Initially, the map could only show question marks within a 10-meter radius, but his strength had soared recently, and he found that the display range had expanded to 50 meters. Not only that, Kagaya Tetsu had only ever encountered white and green question marks before, but now even golden question marks had appeared, further confirming his theory. Even if only to farm more good items, he needed to be more proactive. As for now, the matter had concluded, and he had temporarily shaken off White Zetsu's surveillance and the village's suspicion. It was time to check out his biggest trophy. Kagaya Tetsu walked toward the depths of the courtyard, reaching the entrance of a cellar. That place was originally intended by his father to store plum wine, but now it held something far more special. Just as he was about to open the cellar door, he suddenly saw a white question mark pop up on the map. This system was not only useful for getting rewards but also quite good for sensing the surrounding environment. He watched as the question mark slowly moved to his doorstep, then stopped moving, which was very suspicious. Now was not the time to check the spoils, so Kagaya Tetsu left the cellar and cautiously opened the door to observe. There was nothing outside, only the plum tree leaves gently swaying. Kagaya Tetsu sniffed and spoke. Did a stray cat climb up the tree? How long has it been since it bathed? It smells terrible. As soon as he finished speaking, a clear and sweet voice came from the tree. You're the smelly cat. A girl jumped down from the tree. Her features were bright and beautiful, her figure graceful, and the faint blue veins on her long legs made her fair skin appear even whiter than snow. Seeing her, Kagaya Tetsu exclaimed deliberately. It's Lady Mei Terumi. My apologies. Mei Terumi gave him a look. How did you find me? Kagaya Tetsu pointed at her and chuckled. You always smell like flowers. Mei Terumi's earlobes visibly turned red, and she quickly changed the subject. I was just passing by and noticed the plums were ripe. I wanted to pick some to make salted dried plums. Nothing else. Kagaya Tetsu spread his hands. Who asked? Mei Terumi lightly bit her silver teeth. She was usually poised and comfortable dealing with anyone, yet Kagaya Tetsu always managed to infuriate her. Seeing her fair face gradually turn apple red, Kagaya Tetsu was secretly amused. He knew Mei Terumi was worried about him, but she was too embarrassed to visit directly. After all, Mei Terumi was the student of the elder and a refined young lady. It would be improper to visit a boy's house alone, so she secretly climbed the tree to check on him. Kagaya Tetsu extended a finger, and with a few poof sounds, bone bullets accurately struck the branches. Plums rustled down and were caught by him. These are good quality, perfect for making pickled dried plums. I'll wrap them up and send them over to you later. He smiled, offering an apology for his earlier teasing. Mei Terumi pouted, then smiled charmingly. That's more like it. After speaking, her expression darkened slightly. Tetsu, Elder told me not to visit you for the time being, or it would be detrimental to you. I'm sorry. Her friend had returned after a near-death experience, was locked in prison, and subjected to interrogation, yet she hadn't shown up. Mei Terumi felt very guilty. Keigaya Tetsu waved his hand. Mei, you don't need to explain. I understand. Mei Terumi was the student of the elder. If she had contacted Keigaya Tetsu without permission before the interrogation, it would easily have caused controversy. Even if Keigaya Tetsu was acquitted, people like Hazuka Asuka would spread rumors. After Mei Terumi finished speaking, she waved her hand, feigning ease. Alright, I'll head back now. Remember to send me the plums. The moment she turned around, Keigaya Tetsu saw a shimmer of moisture in her emerald eyes. Mei, what happened? Keigaya Tetsu had known Mei Terumi for many years, but he had never seen her cry. No matter what happened, tell me. He spoke softly. Mei Terumi had originally intended to hold back her tears and leave quickly, but upon hearing his gentle yet firm voice, she completely broke down. My teammates, they're all dead. She bit her lip tightly until crimson blood began to seep out, but even that couldn't stop the torrent of tears. Mei Terumi recounted the events, trembling. It turned out that while Keigaya Tetsu was on his mission, she had also led an Anbu squad out to sea, attempting to destroy a transport ship belonging to the hidden Cloud Village. Unexpectedly, due to an intelligence leak, her squad encountered the Sandaime Raikage's son, and the result was predictable. Mei Terumi managed to escape back desperately, but all her comrades perished. After listening, Keigaya Tetsu felt moved. Mei Terumi's stress during this period must have been immense, yet she still worried about his safety and secretly came to see him. I'm a useless captain. Mei Terumi's voice was low, the pride belonging to a genius completely gone. Keigaya Tetsu suddenly leaned close to her, lowering his head slightly. Go on, pat it. Mei Terumi was confused. Huh? Keigaya Tetsu looked at her seriously. Haven't you always wanted to pat my head? You can do it now. Mei Terumi was stunned. She had expected Keigaya Tetsu to patiently comfort her or something similar, but instead, he invited her to pat his head. Although she really did want to touch it. Keigaya Tetsu's white hair was smooth and soft, feeling wonderful to the touch. Mei Terumi had loved patting it back when they were in the ninja academy, but Keigaya Tetsu rarely let her. She wrinkled her nose, placed her fair, small hand firmly on Keigaya Tetsu's head, and ruffled it roughly. Comfortable. She squinted slightly, and the gloom in her heart dissipated a little. Seeing that her emotions had calmed down, Keigaya Tetsu finally spoke. Things like this happen in every village every now and then. It's not your fault. We are too weak. That is the real problem. Although the Hidden Mist village is ranked among the 5 great villages, its fighting strength might not even compare to the Hidden Rain village, and its internal structure has long been riddled with spies and vulnerabilities. The highly praised 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist were almost wiped out facing Might Dai. Although Might Dai's strength was severely underestimated, that outcome was still somewhat outrageous. Simply put, the Hidden Mist was essentially a nobody from start to finish, only improving slightly after Mei Terumi became Mizukage, but by then, the Fourth Great War was already underway. Mei Terumi sighed lightly and nodded. You're right. We don't even know how many spies are in the village. Even Anbu intelligence gets sold out. Tetsu, I feel like we are getting closer and closer to losing this war. This thought was hidden deep in her heart. She didn't even dare tell Lord Genshi, but she trusted Keigaya Tetsu. Keigaya Tetsu shook his head. Not necessarily. Mei Terumi looked at him suspiciously. You think we can win? In her opinion, Keigaya Tetsu was a very mature person and shouldn't harbor unrealistic fantasies. Keigaya Tetsu corrected her. Not winning through fighting, but through other means. Just as Mei Terumi grew more confused, he continued. Mei, our approach is flawed. We've been trying to fight the other 4 great ninja villages simultaneously. But why not change our strategy? We can use the advantage of being separated by the sea, sit back and watch the tigers fight, incite them to fight among themselves, and then reap the benefits. What he was referring to was the continental balance policy. For an island nation like the Hidden Mist village to break the deadlock, the best method isn't clashing head-on with the great continental powers, but utilizing geographical advantages to remotely orchestrate conflicts. Mei Terumi was smart and quickly grasped what Keigaya Tetsu intended to do. Che-kun, that's a brilliant idea. I will ask Lord Genshi to consider it carefully. In her excitement, she grabbed Kagaya Tetsu's arm, but quickly let go when she realized it was improper etiquette. Ninjas generally only know how to fight and kill, especially the Kirigakure ninja, but the Hidden Mist's ninja fighting strength and numbers are completely overwhelmed by the enemy, leaving them no chance of winning. Kagaya Tetsu had provided a new line of thinking. If it truly succeeded, this war might see a major turning point. Kagaya Tetsu nodded. I also want to tell Lord Genshi about this idea. Genshi's authority was comparable to the Mizukage's, and he was also Mei Terumi's teacher. If it were him, he might support Kagaya Tetsu. Kagaya Tetsu had to win this seemingly unwinnable war. To fight those masterminds behind the scenes, a strong Hidden Mist village was essential. Moreover, if he succeeded, his prestige would increase greatly, allowing him to take a step toward controlling the Hidden Mist village. The two chatted for a while longer, and Mei Terumi suddenly said, Che-kun, my squad is gone, and I'm tired of doing those shady missions in the Anbu, so I've applied to transfer to being a regular ninja. The village agreed, but now all the squads are short-handed, so I need to gather my own members. I don't want to keep bothering Sensei for help, so, would you like to join my squad? Looking at Mei Terumi's hopeful gaze, Kagaya Tetsu spread his hands. Coincidentally, my squad is gone too. He had essentially agreed. Leaving aside his friendship with Mei Terumi, even if it was just to latch onto the long, fair leg of the 5th generation Mizukage, he had to join. To become the light of the Hidden Mist, he couldn't keep hiding in places like the Anbu. Mei Terumi smiled sweetly. That's wonderful. I'll apply to have you transferred to a regular ninja as well. After they chatted for a while, Mei Terumi hurried off to find Genshi, and Kagaya Tetsu returned to the cellar entrance. Or rather, the dungeon. Following the steps down, he lit a candle. The light spread, illuminating the bound girl in the corner. Hello, Rin Nohara. He greeted her politely. After the bone clone kidnapped Rin Nohara, it traveled all the way to a smuggling port in the Land of Frost, and then, using some of Kagaya Tetsu's old contacts, secretly sent her back to the Hidden Mist village. Fortunately, it was wartime, and various pirates and smugglers were rampant, so secretly transporting a girl across the sea wouldn't attract much attention. Before Kagaya Tetsu returned to the village, the bone clone had imprisoned Rin Nohara in this dungeon, waiting for the main body to return. Rin Nohara was currently tightly bound, and her eyes, as she looked at Kagaya Tetsu, were full of hatred. Whatever you want me to do, I will absolutely refuse. Her soft, gentle voice carried a sense of determination. Kagaya Tetsu remained silent. With a shua sound, he pulled a bone blade from his right arm and slowly walked toward Rin Nohara. Sweat seeped from Rin Nohara's back. The scent of death caused an uncontrollable fear to surge in her heart. Even so, she still stared straight into Kagaya Tetsu's eyes. It's a pity. I wish I could see Kakashi again. She closed her eyes in despair. The bone blade descended, but the expected pain never came. Rin Nohara opened her eyes, surprised to find that her ropes had been cut. Kagaya Tetsu retracted the bone blade and chuckled softly. You said you wouldn't agree to whatever I asked. Then what if I asked you to run away? Rin Nohara paused, then felt anger rise. This Kirigakure ninja actually wanted to play cat and mouse games. Unexpectedly, Kagaya Tetsu stepped aside, revealing the stairs leading outside. I'm not joking. Gulp. Rin Nohara swallowed, looking at Kagaya Tetsu's sincere smile. She didn't know this guy, nor did she understand his purpose for doing this. But the cool breeze blowing from the dungeon entrance fiercely tugged at her heart. I'll risk it. Rin Nohara took a deep breath, darted past Kagaya Tetsu like a wild rabbit, and ran toward freedom. Seeing Rin Nohara run out, Kagaya Tetsu indeed didn't pursue her. He walked out of the cellar with his hands behind his back, leisurely moved a chair, and lay down in the courtyard. The sun was nice, so he'd nap for a bit. An hour later. A delicate shout woke him up. Kagaya Tetsu rubbed his eyes and looked at the furious girl. You're back? He asked indifferently, clearly having anticipated this outcome. Rin Nohara was drenched, her thin clothes clinging to her body, outlining her perfect curves. Although not as ample as Mei Terumi or Tsunade, she appeared more petite and delicate, with a unique charm. She was trembling with anger, wishing she could immediately grab a kunai and kill the scoundrel in front of her. Just now, she had rushed out of the courtyard and reached the seaside in a few steps, only to be dumbfounded. Before her was a vast, turbulent ocean that she couldn't cross at all. Although walking on water was a mandatory lesson for ninja, that only applied to calm surfaces. Facing the constantly rolling and surging waves, the meager chakra under her feet couldn't keep her steady. Rin Nohara was unwilling to give up and tried to cross the sea more than 10 times. The result was that she only ended up looking like a drowned rat, with no success. She did want to find a boat, but she also realized that this was Hidden Mist Village, and brazenly going to find a boat would be tantamount to suicide. Helpless, she returned to Kagaya Tetsu's courtyard. At least this guy hadn't done anything to her yet. Seeing Rin Nohara remain silent, only glaring at him with murderous intent, Kagaya Tetsu wasn't annoyed. He pointed to the white robe on the table nearby. Change. The land of water has a cold and damp climate, you'll easily catch a cold. This was the Kagaya clan uniform, which Kagaya Tetsu had hardly ever worn. Rin Nohara was his age and of similar build, so he simply gave it to the girl for now. Rin Nohara gritted her teeth, feeling very uneasy. She seemed to be led by the nose by this guy at every turn. But she had to admit that Kagaya Tetsu was right. Silently picking up the clothes, she found a room, locked the door, and changed. Kakashi, what should I do? After changing into dry clothes, Rin Nohara's heart settled slightly, but the suppressed emotions could no longer be controlled, and 2 lines of clear tears fell. She never expected to be brought to Hidden Mist Village, with no way out, no escape. Suicide. She did have that thought. But she had tried before, she seemed to have been placed under some kind of cursed seal, making it impossible for her to even commit suicide. Moreover, thinking of Obito's face before his death, and Kakashi, who was willing to sacrifice his life to protect her, she hesitated. She wasn't afraid of death, but she was afraid of letting down her dearest friends. Live. Gently clenching her fist, Rin Nohara made up her mind. The young man outside hadn't killed her, which meant he had some motive for her. Whatever his motive, there was a chance to negotiate. She could completely play along, secretly gather information about Hidden Mist Village, and look for an opportunity to escape. Having made her decision, Rin Nohara felt her heart lighten, and she pushed the door open. She had to find every way to survive and return to Kakashi. Coming into the courtyard, she saw the white-haired young man still lying on the chair, resting with his eyes closed. For the first time, Rin Nohara carefully observed him and had to admit that his appearance was no less handsome than Kakashi's, perhaps even better. Of course, in her eyes, this face was incredibly hideous. Seeing her come out, a hint of surprise appeared on Kagaya Tetsu's face. You're done so quickly. I thought you'd cry for a long time. Rin Nohara instinctively wanted to wipe away her tear stains but then realized that doing so would expose the fact that she had cried, so she had to hold back. She spoke coldly. What exactly do you want me to do? Let me remind you, I'm just an ordinary medical ninja from Konoha. If you want to use me to threaten the village, I advise you to kill me now instead. Kagaya Tetsu almost burst out laughing. Ordinary, huh? Miss Rin Nohara was too modest. During the Kanabi Bridge battle, facing Obito, whose half-body was crushed, and Kakashi, who had lost an eye, Rin Nohara didn't cry or make a fuss, calmly completing the eye transplant surgery. In the original kidnapping operation, when she discovered she had become a Jinchuriki, she didn't hesitate and directly asked Kakashi to kill her. Leaving aside her medical talent, her calm and decisive nature alone meant that Rin Nohara's potential was definitely very high. He didn't directly answer Rin Nohara's question but smiled and said, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Kagaya Tetsu, and I was one of the Hidden Mist ninja involved in your kidnapping. However, everyone else is dead. If you want revenge, you might only have me to find. Seeing Kagaya Tetsu's gentle smile, Rin Nohara wanted to punch him. But she kept reminding herself to stay calm. She had heard of the Kagaya clan's reputation. They were all battle maniacs, not someone a medical ninja like her could deal with. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her emotions, and asked again. So now can you tell me what you want to do by kidnapping me? Kagaya Tetsu held up a finger. I want to make a bet with you. Rin Nohara was full of questions, and she heard him continue. For 1 year, you can try to defeat me in any way you choose. Of course, if you can kill me, that's fine too. If you succeed, I'll give you a boat to go out to sea. But even if you can't, I will still let you return to Konoha after a year, but in that case, you have to promise me one thing. Don't worry, it absolutely won't be anything that would harm your village or your comrades. He kidnapped Rin Nohara not just to deal with Obito, but more importantly, he needed to cultivate his own power. To control Hidden Mist Village, and even defeat the aliens, relying solely on him and Maid Terumi was definitely not enough. Obito, that simp, only regarded Rin as a goddess, but Kagaya Tetsu knew very well that Rin was not meant to be used that way. So he planned to spend a year slowly transforming Rin Nohara, developing her true potential. Kagaya Tetsu was very much looking forward to saying, when Obito and Rin Nohara reunited. Oh, so she's like that in front of you. She's not like that with me, you know. I'll send you the video to watch tilde. Ahem, getting off topic. In short, he wasn't lying to Rin Nohara, and he was confident that he could make Rin Nohara completely side with him. After he finished speaking, Rin Nohara was full of suspicion. Why should I believe you? No matter what, this bet was too suspicious. Kagaya Tetsu spread his hands. Do you have a reason to refuse? Rin Nohara couldn't refute, she had no room to bargain. Besides, this bet didn't seem to have any downsides for her. If Kagaya Tetsu changed his mind halfway through and asked her to harm Konoha or her comrades, then she would just refuse. Okay. Rin Nohara agreed. Kagaya Tetsu squinted and smiled. Now, take off your clothes first. Rin Nohara was startled and quickly hugged her body with both hands. What do you want to do? Kagaya Tetsu rolled his eyes at her. It's dinner time. You don't want to go into the kitchen wearing a white robe, do you? It gets dirty easily. With an extra mouth to feed, he couldn't manage everything by himself. Rin Nohara's mouth twitched, feeling that this guy's thinking was a bit erratic. The next morning, Hidden Mist Village's 7th training ground. Maid Terumi stood in the center of the training ground, looking at the two young men. She was a Jonin, and after forming a squad, she automatically became the captain. As for these two guys, they were her subordinates. Let's skip the introductions and such, you two don't like them anyway. Maid Terumi finished speaking, looking at the two with a somewhat strange expression. Kagaya Tetsu's expression was equally strange. He hadn't expected his other teammate to be Zabuza Momochi. Maid Terumi did not want Zabuza. When she applied to form her own squad, she didn't want to trouble her teacher, so she followed the proper procedures and only specified Kagaya Tetsu. Unexpectedly, Master Yuenshi still found out and specifically assigned Zabuza to her. Zabuza is not only strong but also very kind, he will be a reliable companion for you. Master Yuenshi said this. Maid Terumi almost thought she was hallucinating. Kind. Reliable. That fiend slaughtered all his classmates not long ago. She didn't know why, but the village had acquitted and released Zabuza. She argued strongly, but only on this matter did Master Yuenshi refuse to indulge her. Left with no choice, Maid Terumi had to accept Zabuza into her squad. Logically, she could recruit one more person, but nobody was willing to join her team. Kagaya Tetsu and Zabuza, rumors about the two of them, all containing elements of horror, were everywhere in the village. No ninja with a sound mind would join such a squad. Maid Terumi didn't mind. She was a Jonin herself, and although Kagaya Tetsu and Zabuza were Chunin, the power they displayed surpassed many Hidden Mist Jonin, so being short one person was not a major issue. The only problem was that she was slightly worried the two of them might fight. Sure enough, after the three of them met, Zabuza stared intently at Kagaya Tetsu and was the first to speak. I heard the Kagaya clan's bone blade is very sharp. I want to test it. Kagaya Tetsu shook his head and laughed flippantly. My apologies, but I don't want to injure a teammate. He understood Zabuza's character and didn't mind his inclusion. How bad could a guy who treats a little boy girl gently possibly be? He wasn't trying to mock Zabuza. He had mastered the White Fang blade technique, and Zabuza, even if just competing in pure swordsmanship, was currently no match for him. But when those words landed in Zabuza's ears, unconcealed killing intent flashed in the other man's eyes. Maid Terumi's cool voice drifted over. Anyone who wants to attack a comrade, get lost now. She didn't mention a name, but her face was turned towards Zabuza, and a faint, high-temperature acidic mist began to drift out. Zabuza said nothing more. He genuinely wanted to challenge the Kagaya clan, famous for fighting, but he also knew very well that he was no match for Mei Terumi. Seeing the other party yield, Mei Terumi retracted the acidic mist. Enough talk. We are about to execute a mission alongside the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. Hearing this, both Kagaya Tetsu and Zabuza perked up their ears. The 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist were the most mysterious existence in the hidden mist village, rarely acting together with other squads. Mei Terumi continued. The Mizukage-sama has decided to seize the initiative and continue the offensive. The target is the land of hot springs. That was originally a neutral area, but Konoha recently sent personnel into the land of hot springs capital, showing a tendency to control it, which poses a great threat to us. Our mission is to work with other squads and cooperate with the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist to capture the land of hot springs capital and prevent Konoha from succeeding. Listening to Mei Terumi's explanation, the geographical location of the land of hot springs appeared in Kagaya Tetsu's mind. It is located northeast of the land of fire. Its narrow territory borders the sea, and besides having many excellent hot springs, it also possesses several natural harbors. Once Konoha completely controls the land of hot springs, hidden mist village ninja and merchant ships will be unable to dock at those ports or move deep into the continent to carry out operations. No wonder the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist were mobilized this time. If Konoha achieves its goal, the danger is self-evident. Could it be that time? Kagaya Tetsu suddenly thought of something. He knew that during the Third Great Ninja War, the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist ran into Might Die, resulting in 4 of them being killed on the spot, but he didn't know the time or location of that battle. Kagaya Tetsu didn't say much more. The more miserable the defeat of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, the more likely his continental balance policy would be successfully implemented. A few days later, in the southern land of hot water. This country was covered in hot springs, picturesque, and had always been a tourist destination. But now, the air was filled with the stench of smoke and dust, and black smoke columns rose into the sky. The flames of war had finally reached this place. Mei Terumi rushed forward with her 2 subordinates, heading toward the rendezvous point. Kagaya Tetsu spoke from behind her. Mei, speaking of which, is the village really confident that sending this few people can defeat Konoha and take the land of hot springs? The 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist were the type of beginner village killers. They were fine for beating weaklings, but they'd have to kneel when facing a true powerhouse. Mei Terumi sighed softly. This was the plan proposed by Hazuka Asuka. He said Konoha's main force hadn't had time to enter the land of hot springs, and with the 7 of them acting together, taking a small country wouldn't be a problem. Hey, in my opinion, this is nothing more than Hazuka Asuka's personal ambition. She shared the same thought as Kagaya Tetsu. The Hazuka are currently the largest clan in the village and are determined to secure the position of the 4th Mizukage. Hazuka Asuka naturally needs to boost his reputation. Kagaya Tetsu turned his head to Zabuza and asked. Zabuza, what do you think of their strength? Zabuza didn't speak, just focused on rushing forward. Kagaya Tetsu chuckled, trying to act like a master by staying silent. He put on an expression of understanding and raised his voice. I get it. Since you're all swordsmen, you must feel like you're too far behind and are inevitably feeling inferior. Before he finished speaking, Zabuza erupted in fury. Bullshit. I am the strongest. Kagaya Tetsu laughed loudly. Oh, so you can talk. PFF'd. Mei Terumi couldn't help but burst out laughing, then quickly straightened her face. As the captain, she still needed to maintain a serious expression. Realizing he had been tricked by Kagaya Tetsu, Zabuza gripped his sword handle, thinking, as expected of a Kagaya clan member, truly hateful. Just as he couldn't resist making a move on Kagaya Tetsu, Mei Terumi suddenly stopped. Wait. Kagaya Tetsu and Zabuza looked over, startled simultaneously. Before them was a village nestled by the mountains and water. It wasn't large, but the roads were clean and tidy, and the houses were painted a beautiful red. The villagers living here were clearly happy. However, that was no longer the case. The village was littered with corpses, men, women, old, and young. What happened? Mei Terumi widened her eyes, and quickly knew the answer. Two men were walking leisurely among the piles of corpses, occasionally poking the bodies with their blades to ensure no one was still alive. Both men's blades were very unique. One was long and thin like a sewing needle, and the other was covered in things resembling exploding tags. Keigaya Tetsu recognized them as the heartless duo of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, Kuriarare Kushimaru and Munashi Jinpachi. Both their blades were smeared with blood. Clearly, they were the ones who had killed everyone in the village. Seeing Mei Terumi's squad arrive, a sinister laugh came from behind Kuriarare Kushimaru's mask. You arrived quite quickly. Mei Terumi's face seemed covered in frost. Why slaughter the villagers? She was a ninja, and naturally, she wouldn't hesitate to kill, but that was only directed toward enemies. Killing a group of unarmed villagers like slaughtering livestock, this was something she could not understand. Munashi Jinpachi hoisted the massive exploding blade, Shibuki, onto his shoulder and said disdainfully. The land of hot springs is about to be controlled by Konoha anyway, so the people here are naturally all enemies. Got a problem. Having said that, he lifted his right leg and casually kicked a human head into a nearby well. Nice aim. Kuriarare Kushimaru burst out laughing, and the two bumped fists. Mei Terumi clenched her fists tightly, her nails digging into her palms, desperately reminding herself not to act impulsively and to prioritize the mission. At least stop disrespecting their corpses. She spoke coldly. Kuriarare Kushimaru acted as if he hadn't heard, raising his foot to crush the head of a nearby child. A gust of wind blew past. Kuriarare Kushimaru's scalp tingled. Years of combat instinct made him react, swiftly raising his sewing needle to stab. A flash of white light appeared, followed by a few clang sounds. Kuriarare Kushimaru retreated several steps, staring in shock at the blood line on his forearm. He had actually been wounded by the opponent's blade. Keigaya Tetsu sheathed his sword and smiled. You should probably listen to my captain's orders. Mei Terumi and Zabuza both looked at him simultaneously. One's eyes held gratitude, the other's shock. So fast. Zabuza exclaimed internally. He hadn't even clearly seen Keigaya Tetsu's movements just now, and he had managed to injure Kuriarare Kushimaru. That was one of the 7 swordsmen. There were few in the entire village better at using a blade than they were. Zabuza recalled that he had wanted to challenge Keigaya Tetsu earlier, but the other party had flatly refused, saying he didn't want to injure him. At the time, he thought it was a mockery, but now he knew Keigaya Tetsu hadn't been lying. Only a guy like this is worthy of being my opponent. Zabuza was not discouraged, instead, his fighting spirit soared. Kuriarare Kushimaru was both shocked and furious. He had actually been wounded by a Chunin brat, it was a tremendous disgrace. Brat, you only succeeded because I wasn't paying attention. Come again. He glared with bloodshot eyes, ready to fight Keigaya Tetsu to the death. Mei Terumi and Zabuza stopped pretending and stood to Keigaya Tetsu's left and right. Just as it looked like the two sides were about to engage in internal conflict, a laugh drifted over. Everyone, have you forgotten the Mizukage-sama's orders? Hazuka Asuka had arrived. Thanks for watching.